Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Cinemateq Morning Movie Show. My name is TJ. It is Friday. It is Venom Day. There are so many wonderful things to be excited about, to be happy about. It's just the weekend, y'all. It's time for the weekend, but it's not quite time to relax just yet. If you're me, we must go through the film news. And I know that if you're looking at that thumbnail and you're seeing Scarlett Johansson, you're thinking all kinds of happy thoughts because she had a very wonderful thing happen to her the other day. But in a morning news show first, we are not going to talk about the thumbnail article until a little bit later because I feel like there's going to be some people joining in, dropping in on us, and we will then be able to talk about the big headline with a bit of a larger audience later on. I see Dory's already joining us. Hello, Dory. Welcome. Fantastic to see you. And beyond that, we're just going to have a good old time. Just going to have a good old time. Lots of film news to talk about today. In another departure from normal morning movie show protocol, I don't have my tea ready yet. I was going to wait for the thing to just boil before starting, but then I realized that waiting for tea to boil, waiting for water to boil is just a bad idea. You never really know when it's going to finish. So, in spite of that, I decided to start things a little bit early. So, why don't we just chat with each other for a second before we get started, because this tea is going to boil. This water is going to boil. So Dory, I know that you're here. Why don't you let me know what you're planning on seeing this weekend? Just to start off, I will say that I will be seeing Venom today. Pretty excited for it. I've been seeing nothing but things that make me think I'm going to really enjoy it. Mostly the fact that it's a really dumb movie, but they've kind of leaned into it, as opposed to the last movie where I think they thought they were making a serious movie that just turned out to be kind of funny because of how dumb it was. Whereas now they're like, oh no, this is a dumb movie. Let's have it be a dumb movie. So I'm excited for that. And I can hear my tea boiling. So if you'll just excuse me for but a moment, and then we will get into the film news, I promise. The film news will be happening. And May is here. What up? Oh yeah, the tea is boiling. And by tea, I mean water. It's actually very dangerous over here right now. All right. Look at it, cat. And we're back. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. This is going to be a good one. I have a feeling in my bones. I've looked through some of the articles already. Nothing will make me angry and swear a lot. Hopefully, it's just going to be a joyous, wonderful occasion. It looks like Dory this weekend is going to be seeing Venom. I assume you mean Venom 2. Dracula and Frankenstein double feature, Addams Family, Sopranos movie, and Tatin. That is one hell of a weekend. You'll have to let me know how the Addams Family is because I'm kind of curious. I know that with a lot of Halloween stuff coming out, something that's horror adjacent is going to be something fun to go see, but I have not seen the original Addams Family animated film, at least. So will I? Tell me about the plot threads on Monday, Dory. Do I need to watch them for Addams Family 2 in order to understand Addams Family 2? Yeah. Yeah. Talking is fun. So, still have to drink water while I wait for the tea to cool down. Now, let's actually get into what we are really here for, which is labor news. Woo! I have been talking almost daily about the IATSE strike, and today, as it is October 1st, happy October, everybody, IATSE is starting their strike authorization votes today and will be having them over the weekend, essentially, from October 1st to October 3rd. And there have been a few different articles to come out about it, mostly in terms of worker solidarity, but also what IATSE is publicly saying right now, because they're basically getting everyone ready for the idea of a strike. So in this first case, and this is coming from Deadline, written by David Robb. Headline reading, IATSE to Hollywood media giants, you're going to change the way you do business. Not a, hey, we're going to negotiate and come to a deal. It's, you're going to change and we're going to make you change. That's kind of what we're talking about right now. So, to get into the article, with IATSE members set to begin voting Friday for a strike authorization, the union leaders say they have a message for Hollywood's media conglomerates. You're going to change the way you do business. Doesn't the labor movement just make you feel all nice and tingly on the inside sometimes? Just facing down billion-dollar corporations and saying, hey, guess what? We are a collection of workers. Fuck you. I love it. The union's petition calling for the companies to give the union a fair contract, meanwhile, has now passed 100,000 signatures. The idea of a living wage for the lowest earning in our crafts is something that shouldn't be news to these companies that are worth trillions, make billions off of our work, and are talking to us about pennies. Mike Miller, IATSE's vice president in charge of the union's West Coast office, said at a recent Hollywood rally at the Editors Guild in support of a fair contract. It's time for a living wage and sustainable benefits. Agreed. And apparently there's a video of a rally above, and this just kind of looks like people coming in, getting their cars painted in solidarity. So it'll have messages that say like, I stand with IA or I am IATSE or something like that. The fight for a fair contract, he said, standing beside Editors Guild National Executive Director Kathy Rapola, comes down to a fight for human dignity and human rights. These basic dignities are also the most... oh, God. I'm just excited today, guys. These basic dignities are also the most of basic human rights, he said during Sunday's rally. The idea that anyone can go on an entire workday without a guaranteed meal break, the unsafe hours that we work are no longer tenable, and we're not talking about anything other than being able to have a break between shifts so you can eat and you can sleep and you can come back and work and you can get yourself home from work safely. They're not asking for the moon here. They're just asking for safe working conditions. With regard to the union's demand for a bigger share of the company's revenues from new media, he said, we made a commitment with them to partner almost 14 years ago with the original new media provisions went into our agreement, and they made a commitment that if you come along as we grow this business, you'll share in the growth and you'll share in the future prosperity. Well, they're successful and they're growing and we want our share, and they have to keep their word. And with the largest entertainment media conglomerates in the world, the IATSE is forced to fight for the weekend, Miller added. That is a basic core tenet that unions fought for and won decades ago, and they're not going to take it from us. He is referring specifically to something that we brought up in an article about the IATSE strike a few days ago, perhaps last week, where Fridays, typically on a film shoot, you will still shoot Monday to Friday because that's just easiest with businesses being open and things like this. Occasionally you will get on Fridays, they are referred to in the industry as fratter days, I believe, where Friday shoots go way into Saturday and it actually just cuts into the weekend. So then instead of getting a solid 2 days off, you're actually getting a day and a half off after working 12 plus hours for 5.5 days, bordering on 6 days. So you can understand why they are looking to the weekend as a very specific thing that they want to target in these negotiations. And it's something that is emotional for a lot of us. Like, we love the weekend. I love the fact that tomorrow is Saturday. I love the fact that tonight is Friday. And it makes a lot of sense for them to be talking specifically about it in these kind of press releases and interviews with places like Deadline. To continue, the response from the employers is, we're not going to change the way that we do business. And our response to that is, that's why unions exist, and thank you for why unions matter 101. Because we're here to tell you that you're going to change the way you do business, Miller said. The union, he said, is up for the fight. They don't believe we're serious, Miller said. They think we're weakened and we're scared because of the pandemic. What they're wrong about is that we're not weakened and we're not scared. We're tired and we're hungry and we're fed up. They've been trying to divide us since day one. They've been trying to divide us by craft. They've been trying to divide us by earnings. They've been trying to divide us by local. They've been trying to divide us by region. And they've been trying to divide us by contract. And all they've done in every attempt to divide us is they've made us stronger and brought us together and made us put ourselves in the position to show them that they will not split this union. We are one union. We are 13 locals in Hollywood. We are more than 24 locals across the country, and they will not carve us up over the most basic worker rights and human dignity. Feels good reading stuff like that. The Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, the company's bargaining arm, has said that it is committed to reaching an agreement at the bargaining table that balances the needs of both parties and will keep the industry working, and that a strike will have a devastating impact on the industry, and the inevitability will result in thousands of IATSE members losing their income, failing to qualify for health insurance benefits, jeopardizing funding for the pension plan, and disrupting production. Now, that's all of the things that the AMPTP is saying, but like, they don't care about any of this except for disrupting production. So they don't like, they're quite happy to have IATSE members lose their pension if it means they can put the screws to them in a prolonged and protracted strike. And I think, honestly, when we look at what the union, what IATSE is asking and demanding for, and the fact that they are having these direct negotiations with companies like Amazon and Apple, like, just give them what they want. You need to keep your content coming, so just give these unions what they want so that their members can enjoy and fulfill their lives. That's it. Like, just don't be dicks. And we'll see later when we talk about the Scarlett Johansson story what happens when you're too much of a dick. Dory asking me, TJ, are you excited for a German movie called I'm Your Man in theaters today? It's about a woman finding her perfect man, but it's actually a robot. That does kind of sound like a Black Mirror romantic comedy type movie. I'd be into seeing it. It wasn't really on my radar, although I did see it listed somewhere, probably on a coming soon something or other. So yeah, I'd be into it. I also feel like, did it play at TIFF? Did it play at TIFF? I feel like it did. Yeah, it did. It did. I just missed it somehow because it wasn't listed as a science fiction film, or else I definitely would have. Or maybe it was the fact that it was a rom-com, and I was like, no, I'm going to TIFF. I don't do rom-coms at TIFF. Yeah, that's me being an idiot. Yeah. Yeah, I'd be into seeing this. I also wonder, like, a German romantic comedy. What does that even look like? Rocco giving his opinion. Doesn't sound too pleased. So now, keeping with the IATSE strike, we have this further article which came out yesterday evening, written by Dave Robb for Deadline. 100 plus members of Congress call on Hollywood producers to give IATSE a fair deal. And I think this is kind of important because I'm not, unfortunately, very familiar with how labor laws work in the United States, and I'm not really sure who would need to be put forward legislation, back to work legislation. I don't know if that would happen federally or on the state level. I imagine because IATSE is a international union with locals in Canada and the United States and all over the United States, I imagine that it would have to come from the federal level. So, yeah, that's what I'm guessing. Also, it says here that YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Are you guys getting a smooth stream? Let me know, because it looks good to me, but I'm not paying too much attention to the preview window. So coming back to this, let's see what they actually have to say. More than 100 Democrats in the House and Senate, and independent Bernie Sanders. Wait, Bernie Sanders is an independent. He's a Democrat. I don't get it. What are you trying to say, article? All right, let's start again. More than 100 Democrats in the House and Senate and independent Bernie Sanders have signed a letter urging the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers to negotiate a fair contract with IATSE, saying, "We are united in our belief in the importance of livable wages, sustainable benefits, and reasonable rest periods between shifts and during the workday, three of the union's core demands." The letter was signed by 31 senators and 87 representatives and sent to AMPTP President Carol Lombardini. The union's members begin voting on strike authorization Friday in advance of what could be the last round of bargaining before a strike that would shut down film and TV production across the country. So that's a lot of information that we know. Let's take a look at the actual letter that they wrote. I'm also interested to know like the makeup of the 87 representatives from the Democrats, because I know that the Progressive Caucus in the American Congress has about 90-ish representatives in it. So I imagine a lot of these 87 people are made up from that caucus, because the Progressive Caucus will be more labor friendly than corporate and moderate Democrats, who are like essentially Republicans that just kind of win in that just kind of win in more red states somehow. And also like the Nancy Pelosi's and Chuck Schumer's of the world, and Biden, to be honest. They're all pretty moderate corporate Democrats. So I imagine that like a lot of the pro-union stuff is coming from the more left-leaning Progressive Caucus. Dory saying Bernie is an independent. His state got Republican governor and most relaxed gun ownership in America. Yeah, like I know. Wait, no, he's from Vermont. I thought Vermont was like super Democratic. Doesn't Bernie win by like a ton every time? But like Bernie isn't an independent. He is a Democrat. Like he's listed as a Democrat. If I'm wrong on this, I am just gonna be so embarrassed. Oh, Bernie Sanders. He's actually a Canadian ice hockey player. Huh. I didn't know that. He's the United States Senator. He's the incumbent. How is he the junior senator from Vermont? The guy's like 1,000 years old. He's long. Oh, he is an independent. What? I'm sorry. Okay, Bernie, you got me on that. Dory, you got me on that one. I guess it's because he always runs for president for America. So for everyone joining the stream late, we are not actually doing a low-key political thing right here. I was just told that Bernie Sanders is an independent senator. I thought, no, he's a Democrat for sure. But no, I was super wrong on that. So thank you, Dory, for that. So back to the actual letter that these Democrats sent to the studios. Let's read through it. Dear Miss Lombardini, as the elected representatives of constituents who make a living working behind the scenes in motion picture and television production, we urge you to negotiate fair successor contracts with the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, or IATSE. We support the principles of adequate sleep, meal breaks, and living wages for all workers. Imagine having to say that out loud. We support the principles of adequate sleep, meal breaks, and living wages for all workers. Like, copy and paste that across the whole fucking world. Or at least we should be. These workers have risked their health and safety for the last year, working through the COVID-19 pandemic to ensure that the motion picture and television production industry emerged intact. Production has now returned to pre-pandemic levels, due in no small part to the essential role these workers play in the creative process. The entertainment you jointly produce is helping to heal our nation. The current contract under negotiation covers approximately 60,000 motion picture and television producers or production workers across the country. Failure to reach an agreement would threaten not only the livelihoods of these workers, but also their family members who rely upon work in your industry, sending shockwaves throughout the U.S. economy and the industry. The key issues in this negotiation, as we've come to understand them, are about worker dignity and basic human necessities. We are united in our belief in the importance of livable wages, sustainable benefits, and reasonable rest periods between shifts and during the workday. Reportedly, IATSE members are mobilizing in preparation for a nationwide strike authorization vote on October 1st, today. Because of the announcement, the AMPTP does not intend to make a counteroffer. A strike would dramatically disrupt the industry, the economy, and the communities we represent. We are hopeful that both sides can negotiate in good faith and reach a consensus agreement which necessitates both parties continuing to participate in ongoing negotiations. Ooh. Where did that go? We ask that the AMPTP negotiate collaboratively with these workers to reach a fair contract and address the basic human needs that will allow them to do their jobs safely and with dignity. And then all of the People are signed. It looks like we've got some people from California, Adam Schiff, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Senate Majority Whip Dick Durbin. Are there any other? I'm really just looking to see if AOC is in here. Cory Booker. Actually, I guess she would have been. Are they doing this alphabetically? Okay, now they're doing it by last name, I think. Got Bernie as an I from Vermont. What? Elizabeth Warren is in here. Warnock is in here from Georgia. That's actually good to have someone from Georgia in there, since so much production is actually done in Georgia these days. John Ossoff. I'm not seeing AOC. Am I crazy? I thought for sure she'd be all over this. Dianne Feinstein. That's good to see. She's a big one from California. Is also signed by. Oh, this must be Congress up here, maybe? Also signed by. I should just search for Cortez. No point looking for it. Really? It doesn't look like she actually signed it. I'm surprised. I thought she'd be all over this pro-union type stuff. But, alright. So there we go. The government, or the government getting involved, at least telling them very nicely that they really should just do what the workers want, because the conditions that the workers are working under right now are not good. It's as simple as that. Pay people fairly, let them take breaks, let them have the weekend. This is not difficult. And I'm wondering, no, I did not want to click on an ad. I do not care about the Toronto Maple Leafs. I wanted to close you. Oh my God. All right, I guess that ad's not going away. So that's essentially where we stand right now. The strike authorization starts today. It will happen over the next 2 days. I imagine that given all the support and solidarity they've been getting from other unions and from other guilds in the industry, the support that they're getting from Congress, I imagine that the strike authorization will go through, and that IATSE will be in a position to strike come Monday. That will be something that we will have to follow, that we will have to take a look at on Monday when it happens. But if there's anything going on about this over the weekend, you can always check in on the Cinemateq Twitter. If I see anything, I'll make sure to retweet it to everyone, just so everyone knows what's going on. Because this is something that I'm very passionate about. As you all know at this point, I'm very passionate about labor rights. So, strike authorization is happening. It's on the way, probably, and we'll see what happens next. Now, the other thing that is happening this weekend, aside from a strike authorization, is the release of a very ridiculous film, probably, called Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. And in the lead up to this, there's obviously been some promotion about it. And now we have an article from Ryan Scott on /film, which tells us that Tom Hardy is deeply invested in Venom, and he wants to make a third movie. So they probably already have tracking data for how much they're going to be pulling in over the weekend, and now they're trying to make the case as to why they need to make a third Venom film, which probably was already the case. I've heard that there is a mid-credit sequence for Venom, which is good. A lot of people have hyped it up as being like super incredible, but like don't get your hopes up type stuff. So now let's take a look at this, see how invested Tom Hardy is. And like, of course he wants a third movie. That means he makes more money. That should be obvious. But let's just see what this article has to say on this lovely movie that will be coming out today and that I will be seeing in, 8 hours from now. A full workday away. It's too much. Venom Let There Be Carnage arrives in theaters this weekend, kicking off the October movie-going season. The Marvel Comics adaptation has been delayed nearly a year. I can't believe I forgot about that. I always just assumed it was coming out this year and that it wasn't actually delayed. That's what the pandemic has done to my brain. But it's here, but it's here now, and Tom Hardy is back as Eddie Brock as Venom. It seems as though this won't be the last time, assuming Hardy has his way, as the actor says he's got another sequel in him. Speaking to The Hollywood Reporter ahead of the movie's release, Hardy said, "I'm deeply invested in this particular franchise. If it's successful, there is another one to do." Woody Harrelson, who plays Cletus Cassidy in Venom Let There Be Carnage, revealed that Hardy was so dedicated to the movie that he'd show up for night shoots even when he wasn't on the call sheet. He really cared, and he really put his heart into it, Harrelson said. Hardy says there is another one to do implies that he already knows what Venom 3 would be about. We know that Hardy wants his character to cross over into the Marvel Cinematic Universe down the line. As for his level of investment, writer Kelly Marcel noted just how deep into these characters Hardy truly is. He can do Eddie talking to Venom live. He can switch voice to voice and character to character that fast as if we were having a conversation. It is quite mind-blowing. All this quote tells me is that Tom Hardy is slowly going insane. And I mean, sometimes I have conversations with my cat, and I guess I am very invested in my cat. You know what? Never mind. Apparently, the odds seem good for Venom 3. It's no secret that critics and audiences disagree heavily on Venom. Critics largely did not like it, yet it grossed $856 million worldwide. And to be clear, the first Venom is not a good movie, and I don't expect the second one to be a good movie. I do, however, expect it to go to breakneck pace, to be completely stupid, and be so over the top that I don't care about anything. If I leave this film feeling numb because it just bashed my brain into nothingness, I will probably count that as a win for the film. If it can make me laugh a few times, even better. But yeah, these are movies that we should not be going in and thinking like money equals good. These are good movies. Audiences love these movies because there's lots of money. These are bad movies that people enjoy in spite of the fact that they're not very good. Basically. At least that's my opinion. But Venom Let There Be Carnage is being released under wildly different circumstances to the first movie. The pandemic is still very much a thing, and it's difficult to say just how much that is going to cut into the bottom line. Box office tracking currently has Let There Be Carnage pulling in anywhere between 40 and 60 million this weekend. The original opened to 80 million in October 2018 by comparison. So about, 50 to 65% of the box office from the original? That's not great. 50 to 75%, excuse me. For what it may be worth, director Andy Serkis' sequel currently sits at a far better 67 approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which, as we know, means nothing, with 47 reviews counted, and that's also quite low. Usually on Rotten Tomatoes, blockbuster films have over 100 reviews, if not more. It appears critics are embracing the goofiness of what this franchise has to offer on the second go-around. And once again, it's not that they're embracing the goofiness, it's that the goofiness is likely being better delivered than the first one. The first movie is accidentally goofy because they thought they were making a serious film. Now it sounds like they're making a not serious film and leaning into the fact that it's goofy. And that is why critic scores are probably going up. They are better executing their vision for the film, whereas for the first one, they tried to execute it and failed, and we all laughed at it and still had a good time in spite of that. That's the difference. If audiences show up again, expect to see more chaos involving Hardy, a symbiote, and the most unique love story of modern blockbuster storytelling. Ooh, good. For my money, I would say the odds are strongly in favor of Venom 3 at this juncture. And I think also a company like Sony, who is so invested in their sort of broader Spider-Man universe, even if the film kind of underperforms compared to the first film, they'll probably still give it a pass. Like, of course they want to make money. Of course they want to ensure that their bottom line is secure. But they're also going to understand that this is a pandemic. And I wouldn't be surprised if these big movie studios have kind of taken this into account with their own internal tracking. Like they likely have numbers or a way of looking at these numbers and saying, if all film theaters were running at full capacity everywhere where we're going, and there wasn't a pandemic going around, we would have expected this movie to gross this much money. So taking that into account, I imagine they would then look at Venom 3 and the prospects of it and say, well, this was like more critically enjoyed. The fans were really into it. We think it would have made this much money if there was no pandemic. Therefore, Venom 3, we can expect it to do this much. And hopefully at that point in time, we'll be out of the pandemic, and they will be able to figure out if the investment is worth it based on that. So even if it underperforms, I still feel like there's a solid shot out of Venom 3. But let me know what you guys think about this. Are you excited for Venom 2? I'm seeing it today. Dory, I know you're seeing it this weekend, and I assume you're still here. If you're just joining us, please let me know what you think about Venom and if you think it's going to be a fun ride. And just always just jump in, comment, hit me up in the chat. I love chatting with you guys while I'm doing this. The show is for you, but the chatting is for me. So moving on to our next little bit of movie news, and this one has to do with a brand new version of Rocky IV being released to theaters. Did you know that they were re-releasing Rocky IV to theaters? Did you know that it was a director's cut? And did you know that they've put 40 minutes of footage back into it? Well, now you do. And apparently, this new version of Rocky IV is only going to be in theaters for one night, so it's a very special occasion. And yeah, let's get a bit more into this because I'm kind of curious to see if there's anything in here that lets us know what about the original film is being changed. There's no way they could make it any more America rah rah rah. I'm pretty sure of that. But like, are we just getting extended sequences of Rocky training in the Russian cold? Maybe. Maybe all of those montages actually were just like long drawn out sequences where an editor was just like, no, we need to cut that down like a lot. Anyways, this article is coming to us from Variety, written by Brent Lang, and let's get into it. In 1985, a plucky underdog from the city of brotherly love helped ease Cold War tensions with his gutsy triumph over a Soviet slugger and his passionate reminder that everybody can change. That ringside speech, of course, was the dramatic culmination of Rocky IV, one of the biggest hits of that year, and critical component of the Sylvester Stallone canon. There were come-from-behind victories, dramatic montages, and that stirring theme music courtesy of Bill Conti. All of the things that made the franchise so great. But fans of the Rocky saga might be forgiven for wondering what got left on the cutting room floor. And really, that's something I wonder about every movie that I watch. Well, wonder no longer. Rocky v. Drago, the ultimate director's cut, will deliver 40 more minutes of never before seen footage. The film, which Stallone directed as well as starred in, will be available for a one-night-only engagement in theaters on November 11th. MGM will team up with Fathom Events for the nationwide screenings, which will also include a Q&A with Stallone that will be broadcast to certain venues, as well as a behind-the-scenes look at the film's creation. Here's the official studio pitch. The fight scenes are more intense, the music is more powerful, and the drama is heightened as world heavyweight champion Rocky Balboa must defend his title once again, this time against his most formidable opponent, Ivan Drago, played by Dolph Lundgren. For those who are otherwise busy on the 11th, Rocky v. Drago will be available to rent on demand beginning Friday, November 12th, so literally the next day. In addition to Lundgren, the film features, and then they just go through the cast, which we don't really need to get into, since if you've seen Rocky IV, you already know what's going on. So this is essentially just a marketing piece. Not much information here about what the film is going to feature in terms of new footage. I did hear that there is actually a trailer for this, so why don't we watch that together? This won't be a reaction. Hey, look, we're streaming live right now, guys. Did you know that? Wow. Let's see. Rocky IV Director's Cut. IGN movie trailers. Rocky IV The Ultimate. Yep. All right. Let's take a peek. Just make sure the sound is actually working. I check it every time before I go, oop. This is a 3-minute long trailer. Oh my goodness. All right, see, everyone can see this. Good. Hopefully the audio is working. Yep, we're good. Into the boxing ring. Oh man. This is so dramatic. If anyone is really familiar with the film, let me know if you're seeing stuff that that is new, that is different. Ooh, Drago, poor color weathers, and now Rocky must defeat it. Are these the new scenes? I wish I was better acquainted with this film right now. Oh, those are some montage moments right there. I do remember those. It was also interesting the way this film kind of framed the way that the two athletes trained. Even Drago, like especially since this was an American film, and the way that it framed the way that Drago trained as being this like scientific. He's got all the best doctors, all the latest technology, and it was kind of just like allowing the Soviet Union to be like, "Hey, we're actually superior to America in this way." And Rocky's like, "I guess I'll just go train in the forest and lift up some logs and run around a bit." And that was how he trained, you know? I always thought that was very interesting the way that they just go so folksy with the way that Rocky trained and so high tech and over the top with Drago. As if like the pure American spirit was just better even than Soviet science. And I guess that's probably what they were going for. Ultimate director's cut. I will say, also watching that, it looks like the color grading has been improved from versions from previous versions of the film that I have seen. I don't remember the colors being as saturated as what we just saw, like especially in that very first shot of the fight, that kind of like wide shot of Rocky and Drago. Is it here? Yeah, just like stuff like this just looks so much more uh, bright and colorful to me than what I remember from this film. And there was also that establishing wide shot. Yeah, find that. Yeah, this just looks so bright, so big and bright. But I'm into it. I'm into it. I don't know if I'll actually go to theaters to watch it, although it would be quite the event to actually go see it. You know, I think I have some friends coming in from town that weekend who really love this movie, so maybe that's something that we'll do. We shall see. We shall see. So now from Rocky 4, we get to move on to what is hopefully not a clickbaity Cinema Blend article. Cinema Blend, this one written by Dirk Libby. And it's all about John Wick 4 and what Keanu Reeves is actually training for. Let me know what you think about Keanu Reeves in the chat and what you think about John Wick in the chat. What's your favorite John Wick movie? I need to know these things. And thank you very much for joining us. If you're just clicking on because of the Scarlett Johansson thumbnail, we are going to be getting to her story fairly soon. Usually, this is a new thing we're trying in these live streams, is just waiting until around like the 10 o'clock mark, getting in about an hour before doing the big story, because it seems like a lot of people have been showing up for the big stories like in the middle of the live stream. And if I lead with them, then I can't do them again, because then the people who've been here for the longest time are like, well, what the hell? Stop repeating yourself. In any case, let's talk about a fight scene so incredible in John Wick 4 that Dirk Libby just has to see it. To quote the article, after 3 movies in the John Wick franchise, it's becoming difficult to figure out how the movies are going to top themselves. We've seen amazingly choreographed fight sequences in a hall of mirrors and a building made of glass. He fought in cars, on motorcycles, and on horseback. He's running out of places to murder people. Popel? Popel? Someone hire me as an editor. My goodness. But now Keanu Reeves says the next film will include a scene where John Wick fights people in the middle of traffic, and it sounds amazing. Appearing on Today, Keanu Reeves spoke about John Wick Chapter 4, and he revealed that the part of the movie he's currently shooting includes his character fighting in traffic. So now we get gunfights and car crashes all in one. According to Reeves, and this is a quote, they're fun, they're intense, we're going for it. There's some really amazing John Wick action and the new characters, and it's been really fun to be playing the role again and to be telling this story. You know, there's new characters and we're opening up the world. Right now, we're just shooting this crazy fight scene in the middle of traffic, so there's car crashes and gunfights. We've seen our fair share of car crashes in the John Wick franchise. His own personal car went through a lot in both the first and second film, and some other scenes, like the previously mentioned motorcycle and horseback sequences, did take place on public streets, but I'm not sure you'd call any of those scenes the middle of traffic. Interesting. That description would seem to imply a gunfight surrounded by just normal people, maybe on their way home from work, and cars crashing all around John Wick. He's trying to avoid being run over and shot at the same time. That certainly amps up the tension in a new way. But who is John Wick fighting? Is he battling a single person, an army of assassins? Is this the first fight scene in the movie or the final battle? We have so many questions, and odds are, because it's John Wick, probably it's a middle action scene. I'm just guessing, though. In addition to teasing an awesome action sequence, Keanu Reeves says that they're opening up the world, and the world has always been one of John Wick's most fun selling points. It's an underworld of assassins that exists alongside our own. They have their own economy, their own bureaucracy. Each film has given us new elements within that structure, and the next movie will almost certainly do the same. In terms of that, with John Wick, I would say that the first film did the best job of incorporating this world, this underground, because it didn't give us much, it just kind of hinted at it. And then I found that as they revealed more and more about the world, it kind of takes the luster away from it. It takes the intrigue away from it, because as they show you how it actually works, you start to understand how it shouldn't exist. I think in the first film, the way that they keep it kind of separate from you, how they only give you like the barest of rules, and the fact that there's like a hotel and the hotel has rules, and you're like, okay, yeah, you know, secret society type stuff, private clubs, like these are all concepts that we're familiar with, and they're just now applying that to assassins. And then as the other movies came out, they just really started getting more and more and more into what I would call ridiculousness. So if you're just joining us right now, I will be getting to the Scarlett Johansson story fairly soon. Please stick around and let me know in the chat what you think about John Wick. And tell me more about what you think about the world of John Wick, and if you think it's been set up well, or if you're not so much of a fan of it. And while we're at it, if you could like the live stream, that'd be real cool. All right, let's get back into this article. It will also give us new insights into, and this is the film they're talking about, John Wick 4, into John Wick himself. We know that Donnie Yen will play an old friend of Wick. That's pretty cool. That means we will likely learn a bit more about who the strange man was before we met him in the first film. It also means we might have some backup when he has to fight people in traffic. John Wick Chapter 4 is set to open in May 2022, so not that far away, everybody. Not that far away. In fact, we should probably start seeing trailers for it in February, so yeah, definitely not that far away. Actually, we might start seeing trailers for it at Christmas, now that I think about it. That would be pretty cool. Go with the family to see a nice family movie, and they open up with a John Wick 4 teaser. I'm in for that. So John Wick 4 will feature Keanu Reeves fighting in traffic against people who we don't know who they are, but they will be fighting in traffic. So, once again, let me know what you think about John Wick, but now, as coincidence would have it, now that we have the most people here watching the live stream, we are getting to the article that you all clicked on to hear me talk about. So this is just serendipitous. We figured it out. We've cracked the code. We know how this works now. So if you're new here, I just like going through the movie news every morning, and this was by far the most, I guess, the article or the story that had the most engagement across multiple news sources. We've been talking about this on the live streams, on the morning movie show for at least a week. because I'm a very strong proponent of people just getting paid. And it seemed like in this case, Disney were just being dicks. They were rearranging their books. They were sticking to the letter of the contract they signed with Scarlett, but not really acknowledging the fact that that contract was signed before the pandemic and before they just decided to change how the film would be distributed. And that is why Scarlett Johansson sued them, because she essentially lost out on money by having the potential box office profits of the film being eaten into by the film being released on Disney Plus. So this comes to a head today, or yesterday, I suppose, yesterday evening when this news come out, that, and this is to quote the headline written by Dominic Patton over at Deadline, Disney and Scarlett Johansson resolve bitter Black Widow profits lawsuit. Big win for the Oscar nominee. Big money win for the Oscar nominee. Now, I'll wait to see if the article actually gets into the money amount. If not, then I'll just let you guys know what I've heard. Don't know if it is an accurate number, but hopefully the Deadline article will give us some of these details. So look, at the very beginning, it's already updated with new details. This is wonderful. Just days after the first court hearing in Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow profits megabyte lawsuit on Disney was pushed back to March 2022, the Oscar nominee and the House of Mouse have made peace, and it was pricey for the latter. I'm happy to have resolved our differences with Disney, said Johansson in a statement released Thursday. I'm incredibly proud of the work we've done together over the years and have greatly enjoyed my creative relationship with the team. I look forward to continuing our collaboration in years to come. Scarlett Johansson confirming that the Black Widow will be back in future Marvel products. My goodness. It really is an article that just keeps on giving. Unlike in their vitriolic filings and their shaming PR statements over the past few months, I assume that says, Marvel owner Disney had nothing but love today for the actor who brought Natasha Romanoff to life for them in nearly 10 separate films. I'm very pleased, and I'm sure this is a quote, I'm very pleased that we have been able to come to a mutual agreement with Scarlett Johansson regarding Black Widow, said Alan Bergman, chairman of Disney Studios Content. We appreciate her contributions to the Marvel Cinematic Universe and look forward to working together on a number of upcoming projects, including Disney's Tower of Terror. As is almost always the case in cases like these, neither side gave away any indication of how much money was involved in the settlement. However, when all is said and done, the deal will run to more than $40 million, sources tell the author of this article. Accordingly, the funds will not be paid by Disney in a single lump sum. If you pick up the creative accounting I'm putting down. So it will not be $40 million all at one time. Kind of amazing how like the amount of money that people would win in the lottery is just kind of like a lawsuit that gets settled in Hollywood. Life-changing money, but it's just sort of like, it's just kind of like pocket change. Ridiculous. In case you forgot, Black Widow came out in cinemas across a Delta variant suffering America and on Disney Plus for a premium fee on July 9th. With the COVID-19 pandemic, a shift to hybrid releases, and the sentimentality free economics of back-end payouts, at the heart of Johansson's July 29th filed lawsuit, the actor declared that she was promised a release from this exclusive to movie theaters on the much-delayed Kate Shortland-directed film, and Disney broke its word. Then things got really messy. Disney incurred the wrath of many, including Johansson's CAA main man Brian Lord, for not only telling the world that the actor got paid $20 million upfront for the film, but also tried to make their longtime collaborator look out cruel for standing up for herself. The lawsuit is especially sad and distressing in its callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, said a Disney spokesperson hours after Johansson's suit became public. Then, as the toxic PR blast radius continued to spread, late on August 20th, Disney's outside counsel Daniel Procelli, Lee Godesky, and Tim Hefner of O'Melveny and Myers LPP put the company's response in the Los Angeles Superior Court docket, seeking to enforce the confidential, binding arbitration aspects of Black Widow star and executive producer Johansson's contract. The trio doubled down on the actor and her shingle. In a futile effort to evade this unavoidable result and generate publicity through a public filing, Periwinkle excluded Marvel as a party to this lawsuit, substituting instead its parent company Disney under contract interference theories, they said of a megastar plaintiff. Who is Periwinkle? Is that Scarlett Johansson's actual name? but long-standing principles do not permit such gamesmanship. Notwithstanding the hyperboles, the fact is Disney likely would have prevailed in getting the whole thing moved behind closed doors. In their August 20th throwback, they also contest that there was any cinema-only clause in the contract, and that Johansson had lost out of any cash because fans decided to watch the flick at home as opposed to the multiplex. As of August 15th, 2021, the picture has grossed more than $367 million in worldwide box office receipts and more than $125 million in streaming and download retail receipts. Donnie's sharp-elbowed filing on August 20th noted. Yet, also, with terms like misogynistic attack fired off by the actor's main lawyer. Guys, hire me as an editor. Oh my god, I understand you have to file this quickly, but geez Louise. Fired back at Disney, and the revealing of Johansson's Black Widow paycheck by Disney in the days and hours following the filing of the explosive suit. Both sides were clearly looking for a solution ASAP, especially as the Bob Chapek-led media giant faced the prospect of extensive discovery in the legal face-off. And the reason they would want to avoid that is that they would need to show in court how they do their accounting on these types of things, and no movie studio wants to show how they do their accounting. It's very not above board a lot of the times. I don't think any of it's illegal. It's just very sus, as the kids say. Amidst the claims of Tinseltown wages amidst the claims of Tinseltown wags that there was a black cloud between the current CEO and his predecessor Bob Iger, as well as Marvel chief Kevin Feige, about how the Johansson matter was being so roughly handled in and out of the public eye, Chapek made a point of addressing the spider in the room on an August 12th Erling call. Periwinkle, isn't that the sister of Tinkerbell? Maybe. Bob Iger and I, along with the distribution team, determined that this was the right strategy to enable us to reach the broadest possible audience, the newish CEO said, aware that both he and Iger's financial windfall from the success of Disney Plus was a big part of the initial Johansson lawsuit. Talking tough for the tough Wall Street crowd listening in, Chapek added, Disney will always do what we believe is in the best interest of the film and the best interest of our constituents, which actually means they will do what's in the best interest of them making money. We have someone new here in the chat that I have not seen before, Ignatius Breedy, asking, what is my opinion about the Sopranos prequel? I'll get back to Disney and Scarlett Johansson in a minute. I have to take a break from this article because it is not the most well-written thing. I have no strong feelings about the Sopranos prequel one way or the other. I will probably end up seeing it. I have not seen the Sopranos show in full, and I've told the story before about how I've seen it in multiple languages, but not in English. So I kind of have an idea of what happens in it. Overall, I think it's getting mostly positive reviews, and I think I am most interested in seeing how James Gandolfini's son portrays Tony Soprano, a young Tony Soprano, with that kind of like generational typecasting fascinates me. And I think it's probably something we'll see more and more as we go along. Like, as an example, could you imagine 25, 30 years from now, Robert Downey Jr.'s kids being being cast as like a new Iron Man in the MCU reboots or something like that? That is something that we could easily see. If you have any other questions, Ignatius, that you'd like me to answer about the Sopranos prequel, like things in particular you'd like to know my opinion about please just put some clarifying stuff in the chat and I'll come back to it. But overall, I'm like, I have no horse in the game. I have no dog in the fight. Oh, that's a terrible thing to say. Yeah, I'm not like a big Sopranos fan. So like, I'm happy that it's there for people who are Sopranos fans, and I hope that it turns out to be a good film for those people who are deeply invested in that show. And I'll probably still go check it out. So get back to this article. Of course, as never one to withstand a less than sunny public face, Disney also moved fast to lock up other potential blowouts, like with the likes of Cruella star Emma Stone. On August 13th, it was announced Disney had struck a seemingly lucrative deal with WME-repped Oscar winner to star in a sequel to the May 26 hybrid release movie. And that, of course, was so lucrative because they wanted to avoid Emma Stone having a similar lawsuit launched against Disney. which is, without a sequel, what Disney had essentially done now with Scarlett Johansson, the Black Widow who took on Goliath and won. A scent of where this was all going to end wafted by on September 21st when Chadwick spoke to Goldman Sachs' 30th annual Communicopia conference. Right now, we have this sort of middle position where we're trying to do right by the talent. I think the talent is trying to do right by us, and we're just figuring out our way to bridge the gap. The exec said of figuring out how to avoid dust-ups like the legal one with Johansson. Ultimately, we believe our talent is our most important asset, and will continue to believe that. And as long as we always have, we'll compensate them fairly per the terms of the contract they agreed to us with. Yeah. But you also don't want your marquee assets to depreciate either on or off screen. For those of you who like to keep score, this is another win for Kasowitz, Benson, Torres, LPP, Berlinski over Petroselli in just over as many years. Jesus. Back in 2019, the two attorneys were pitted against each other in the 4-year battle by Bones executive producers and star Emily Deschanel and David Boreanaz to get Fox and then Disney, after the then Iger-run company gobbled up most of the Murdoch's Hollywood holdings, to come clean on some serious profit participation trickery, which is the accounting that I was alluding to earlier, that no one in Hollywood really wants that to get out there. So a lot of this seems to be just now getting into the history of it. Probably let's go over this last paragraph because it seems to get more into the actual money aspects of the story, which is really what it all boils down to. How much did Johansson actually lose by the film not being available exclusively in theaters and being made available on Disney+. It's believed by many in the industry that the film could have made more on a theatrical window instead of going day and date on Disney+ Premiere, where the streamer's subscribers had to fork over $30 to watch the film. The movie saw one of the biggest drops for a Disney Marvel movie in its second weekend of 68%. The only extent that Disney reported in regards to how much Black Widow made on Disney Plus Premiere was $60 million worldwide in the movie's first weekend. No other updated details were provided by the studio. Through Samba TV clocked 2 million US households that had tuned into the film over its first 10 days. Also eating into Black Widow's theatrical day and date plan and stealing money away from Disney was piracy. Industry sources tell us that Black Widow was illegally streamed over 20 million times. But, as I've said before, in regards to piracy, those people were never going to pay for the film in the first place. They were just taking advantage of being able to pirate it sooner than they would have otherwise. If you want to fight piracy, make things available. That's how you fight piracy. In any case. So, I guess not in any case, but in conclusion to this, I will say that I'm happy for Scarlett. I'm happy that she got paid. I'm happy that she got paid what she is owed. This is just another example of the company, and I'm putting my labor rights law lens onto this. Excuse me, this is just another example of big company trying to screw over individual employee, and Scarlett was able to fight back. And we have to acknowledge the fact that she had the resources in order to do that. Not everybody is going to be able to hire an exceptionally good law firm to go after one of the largest media companies in the world. So congratulations to Scarlett for getting this done, and hopefully this sets the precedent going forward where contracts in the future will include clauses that cover situations like this, so that corporations like Disney can be held to account right from the beginning instead of having to be taken to court and settling out of court. You have to imagine that, considering Black Widow only made around $125 million on Disney Plus, that if it's true that Disney paid out $40 million to Scarlett, to Miss Johansson, that they would have ended up paying her way less if they had just honored the terms of the agreement and then taken that agreement and applied it to the new situation that they found themselves in. But I guess they decided to drag Scarlett through the mud, and Scarlett was like, well, that's going to cost you. And it did. $40 million, allegedly. So good for her. And hopefully this means that people will not have to put up with this bullshit from Disney into the future. So let me know what you think about this. Are you on the side of Scarlett Johansson? Are you Team Black Widow in her fight against the House of Mouse? And is $40 million way too much for one person to be paid in a settlement for a lawsuit? Probably. But it's also probably what she deserved based on what she was getting paid for other things. So, not bothered by it. Moving on to the next little bit of news. And now we are getting into just some industry news, some casting news. This one coming from Justin Kroll over at Deadline. Sister Act 3, a film that I never thought I would be talking about on this channel. Tim Federell to direct with Madhuri Shekhar penning the script for the next installment in Whoopi Goldberg-fronted franchise. Will Whoopi Goldberg actually be the star of Sister Act 3? I don't know. Exclusive from Deadline. The third installment in the Sister Act franchise looks to be gaining momentum as Disney, as sources tell Deadline, Tim Federell has been brought on to direct with Madhuri Shekhar writing the script on the sequel starring Whoopi Goldberg. Goldberg will reprise her role as Dolores, the nightclub singer turned nun, and will also produce the pick along with Tyler Perry. Tom Leonardis is also producing. And this just then talks about the original one. Details for this installment are unknown at this time. Federell already has proven to Disney that he is capable of successfully relaunching one of their prized IPs after helping reboot the GLAAD Award-winning series High School Musical, the series, which he created and exec produces. The show is currently heading into its third season on Disney+. Insiders add, another factor to why he was chosen to direct Sister Act 3 was based on the strong response by execs to his director's cut of his upcoming Disney Plus feature, Better Nate Than Ever, starring Lisa Kudrow. Disney saw him as the right person for this joyful, musical, nostalgic project with a fresh take. Federell Tim. But it's Tim Federell. Guys. Hire an editor. Yeah, man, Justin Kroll all over the place. Where was I just looking at this? Tim Federell also won the Humanities Award for co-writing the Oscar-nominated Best Animated Feature, Ferdinand. He's rep by CAA. And as for Shekhar, she most recently penned the 2020 Amazon Blumhouse feature Evil Eye, produced by Priyanka Chopra Jonas and starring Sunatai Mani. Her TV credits include the upcoming series adaptation of The Three Body Problem from Netflix, with Benioff and Weiss, Alex Wu, and Ryan Johnson exec producing, as well as HBO fantasy epic The Nevers. Her play, A Nice Indian Boy, is also being adapted into a film by Levinton Films. So it seems like everyone involved in this is getting work around the industry. They are not nobodies. They are not up-and-comers. They are pretty well established. I have not seen Evil Eye, though. Has anyone seen it? I think there are some people in here who are Priyanka Chopra Jonas fans. So if you have seen Evil Eye, let me know. Because, you know, we are in the spooky season. We are in October now. October. Anime here, just to go back to the ScarJo thing. Obviously on Team ScarJo. Of course. Of course. We love workers around here. Corporations are bad. All right, another little bit of, no, not so much casting news. A little bit of wishful thinking, perhaps, but worth addressing. Aladdin star Mena Massoud wants to play DC's Nightwing, addresses Star Wars rumors. So let me know, chat, immediately. What do you think of Mena Massoud as DC's Nightwing? Nightwing, of course, being what Dick Grayson turns into after he decides that being Robin is lame. Aladdin star Mena Massoud already has $1 billion hit under his belt, and he'll almost certainly be back for the sequel. But he's currently gunning for a couple of other high-profile roles. In a new interview, he talks about wanting to star in a DC project as Nightwing, also known as Dick Grayson, an adult version of Robin who has become a fan-favorite character over the past few decades. Not only that, but he also wants to enter the Star Wars universe playing a live-action version of Star Wars Rebels character Ezra Bridger. Oh my. That's not bad, actually, for casting. There have been rumors swirling about Massoud as Bridger for months, and now he's addressed those directly. Before I get into this, I'll just go back to the chat. We got Brent saying, what up, Brent? Definitely on the side of ScarJo, even though 40 million is an insane amount of money. I can't think of a scenario where I would be on the side of Disney. Agreed. Especially in that specific instance. So back to Massoud playing Nightwing, a character I've always been drawn to. Do you get it? Because comic books are drawn, right? All right. We're having fun on a Friday. It's rare to see an adult version of Dick Grayson in DC projects. Chris O'Donnell played him in Batman and Robin, and Brenton Thwaites played him in the television series Titans. Now Massoud is angling to play the part in the DCEU, whether in the studio's planned Nightwing movie that's currently in development, or potentially in one of the many projects DC is developing specifically for HBO Max. Although I imagine if it's for HBO Max, then they probably would use the Titans guy, because I think Titans shows on TNT and then like goes directly to HBO Max. So it would probably have to be a movie version, I would think. To quote Massoud, I really would love to play a superhero in the DC or Marvel universe, Massoud told Screen Rant. I think it's important to put things out there in the universe that you want to do and to just really work hard and smart towards them and see what happens. Specifically, though, he has his eye on the role of Nightwing. I've been obsessed with Batman, but I think Batman's it's been done a lot now, and it's been done by some fantastic actors. I don't think I can top them in that way, but Nightwing just has a really interesting story that hasn't been done before. He's a little bit younger, so yeah, he's a character I've always been drawn to. Brent wasn't aware that it was an open mic night. It's always open mic when I'm up here. Look at this thing. This mic is open. You'll have to decide for yourself if that was a joke. Because I don't know. And about those Star Wars rumors. Massoud also wants to head to a galaxy far, far away. For months, he's been rumored to play Ezra Bridger, the Jedi who disappears at the end of Star Wars Rebels, leading Ahsoka Tano and Sabine Wren on a quest to track him down. The Mandalorian has incorporated elements from Rebels into live action already, and with Ahsoka show in the works, there's been lots of talk about how it would make sense for Ezra to appear. When the actor quoted the Ezra character in a social media post in March, the speculation ramped into overdrive. Speaking with Screen Rant, Massoud explained that he was manifesting his desire to play the role. A lot of manifesting going on in this article. Harkening back to his quote about how he thinks it's important to put things out into the universe and work hard to achieve these goals, or those goals. To quote Massoud, yet again, just manifesting, trying different things. Yeah, there's not much more I can say about that, but you know, I've heard murmurings that this role was coming up and this is becoming a real thing. So I just kind of wanted to throw my name in the ring, and yeah, just part of manifesting what you want. It would be a dream come true. Now, what's interesting about this, I did see an article pop up over the last couple of days that's not directly film related, which is why I didn't discuss it, but it had to do with that one person on The Mandalorian who was fired because she kept comparing the inconvenience that she goes through as a conservative in America to what Jewish people experienced under Nazi Germany, and also just saying like a bunch of other stupid bullshit. So she was fired. I think it was what, Kano something. I forget her name. And then apparently there was a fan push to actually have Lucy Lawless fill that role in the third season of The Mandalorian. And then Lucy Lawless was recently quoted as saying that she was actually up for another role in Star Wars, and Disney apparently had to back away. And this is all, you know, kind of Lucy Lawless's opinion on this. I don't think anyone ever stated this to her directly. But she essentially lost out on the original role that she was being considered for because Disney was worried about either miscasting her or seeing as if they were pandering to the fan base. This was kind of an organic movement that sprang up to have Lucy Lawless take on this role. And so Disney just had to be like, well, actually, we can't work with you because we don't want to be seen as pandering to fans, which is silly because they're in the business of pandering to fans. If you have seen the 9th Star Wars film, you will know that they are very interested in pandering to fans and not always for the best. Thank you, Brent. Gina Carano. That was the person who was fired. I wasn't misremembering her name on purpose. I just honestly don't remember it. So going back to this quote from Massoud, obviously I've already had one of my dreams come true with Aladdin, but I also think I could just really do it justice. I've worked on that kind of big, massive set before on Aladdin, and that also means that he has experience working on specifically a big Disney film. I think I have that under my belt now, and thankfully the film did really well. So I think I've proven that I can be successful in that environment. I think it would just be a great opportunity to take everything that I've learned on a set like Aladdin and implement it into the Star Wars or DC or Marvel universe. We're talking about manifesting. So yeah, it would mean a lot. It would mean a lot. I think I would also do a solid job and work really hard. I like what we're doing with that world and how they're expanding the universe. He's very enthusiastic about this. The article then goes on to talk shit about Aladdin. Aladdin has several significant flaws, but Massoud is not one of them. He was perfectly cast in that movie, and I would love to see him ultimately play both Nightwing and Ezra Bridger. The biggest problem he might run into at that point is the oversaturation that can sometimes happen when certain actors start popping up in too many high-profile projects in a short period of time, but he seems like he'd be able to weather that particular storm well. Well, for one thing, though, if we're talking about Ezra Bridger as him playing that, that's him basically in Disney Plus TV shows. Like, that's not him going to theaters as Ezra Bridger. So that's not really a problem. And with Nightwing, we're probably talking about some sort of like Teen Titans or like, Justice League down the road type film as an introduction and then getting into it. And the fact that the Nightwing film is still in pre-production and has not cast anybody says that it's still probably 2 to 3 years away if they even make it at all. So oversaturation is not a problem here. In fact, he probably wants things to start moving more quickly so he actually has like roles to be in over the next 2 years. And on that point, actually, I'd be interested to see what he's actually got coming down the pipe, because he obviously didn't just like take a break after Aladdin. And he's a Canadian boy, my man. I always forgot about that he's Canadian. So let's see. After Aladdin, he did Run This Town. He was in Run This Town. Oh, that's the movie about Rob Ford, our idiot Toronto mayor who smoked crack. Aw, that's nice. Then he also did a voice in Llama's Poem. That looks like it's the same studio that did that Apple TV Plus one. But this looks like it's not from Ireland. I know that studio is from Ireland. And then the Royal Treatment. He's also playing this, which honestly, this just kind of sounds like a Netflix movie for teenagers. Okay. He's been working though, which is always good to see. And we have Brent in the chat saying, I'm probably in the minority, but I thought the Aladdin remake was great, and the original is one of only 3 movies that I gave a perfect score to. So despite loving the original, I thought the remake was pretty good. All right. And now, Brent, you must answer the question, what are the other 2 movies that you give a perfect score to? You can't just dangle that carrot and not expect people to bite on it. Oh, yes, Brent, there is a movie about Rob Ford. It's more specifically about the journalists who discovered that Rob Ford was smoking crack. But yeah, it's a 2019 drama film written and directed by Ricky Tolman. Stars it's Ben Platt? Evan Hansen? Jeez. Mena Massoud, Nina Dobrev, Scott Speedman, Gil Bellows, Jennifer Eel, and Damian Lewis. And it's Damian Lewis, this guy, who plays Rob Ford. And yeah, the film details a turbulent final year of Rob Ford's tenure as the mayor of Toronto. Oh, that was Nina Dobrev. Jeez. I have not seen this, but I know it's out. And yeah, just to address some of the criticisms of this, which is something that really bothered me. If you were following Toronto politics at the time when the Rob Ford story was breaking, Robin Doolittle, seen here, was the journalist who was covering it. She broke the crack story. She was heavily involved with all aspects of this journalism, whatever. And I know this is outside of the scope of this show, but I just wanted to just clarify some stuff. The film faced some criticism for exercising the role of investigative journalist Robin Doolittle and Kevin Donovan. in exposing the scandal, instead replacing them with a fictional novice male journalist, which is stupid. It's just stupid. You have these professionals, like, come on, just put him in there. And the fact that like Robin Doolittle, who did the most on this, I think, and Kevin Donovan was already there, but it was Robin Doolittle who I think was always in the middle of everything, to replace like a professional female journalist with a rookie male journalist is just like, go fuck yourself. What are you thinking? And then Donovan was also critical of the film's portrayal of the media, particularly the scenes depicting a reporter paying for the Rob Ford video, which was something that I think they did because I think Gawker also got after it. But yeah, we don't have to talk anymore about that. Instead, let's just remind ourselves that Mena Massoud wants to be Nightwing, he wants to be Ezra Bridger, and he's trying to manifest that into existence. So good for you, my man. I hope your dreams all come true. What time is it? It's not time for a break yet. Let's keep going. Now we're going to talk about another... God damn it. I need to stop clicking on these deadline ads that just bring me to fucking Amazon Prime. Rege-Jean Page, who you will know from Bridgerton, if you're into very horny Netflix TV series, is to star in Noah Hawley directed Heist film from Netflix and HBO. And this is also coming from, and the HBO, I guess, is the Russo brothers production company. So Netflix and the Russo brothers, this is being written by Anthony D'Alessandro and is coming from Deadline. Netflix and Russo brothers HBO are reuniting to make an untitled heist movie from Emmy-winning Fargo creator Noah Hawley, starring Bridgerton's breakout Rege-Jean Page. Plot details are being kept under wraps for the heist thriller, which is based on an original idea by Hawley. Hawley, in addition to directing and writing, will produce for 26 Keys. Page will also executive produce, and Angela Russo, Atstot. I'm sorry for mispronouncing once again. Blanket apology. AGBO was originally founded to allow us to collaborate with artists we greatly admire and respect. La Roca said, "We are very happy to continue to fulfill that pledge by supporting this new film from Noah Hawley and Rege-Jean Page." Netflix and AGBO made the Joe Russo written movie Extraction, which at 99 million households worldwide is the streamer's most watched original film in history. HBO's recently wrapped The Gray Man, starring Ryan Gosling, Chris Evans, and Ana de Armas and Page. In addition to Fargo, Hawley created, wrote, directed, and showran FX's Legion. He made his feature film directorial debut with the Searchlight astronaut drama Lucy in the Sky, starring Natalie Portman, that premiered at TIFF, if I'm remembering correctly. His sixth novel, the follow-up to his New York Times bestseller Before the Fall, Anthem, will be published by Grand Central Publishing in January. The man is just doing all of the work possible. Before Bridgerton, Page gathered rave reviews in his breakout role in Roots. He's also set to star in Paramount's upcoming Dungeons & Dragons. Hell yeah. So Noah Hawley, mostly bringing him up because he is such a celebrated television creator and making what is probably now his second feature-length film. He's just a very busy person doing lots of very busy things. And you know what? It's a heist film. I love heist films. They are some of the most fun films that you can watch. So congrats to everyone for getting this deal done. And I guess we'll just have to wait and see what the final product ends up looking like. I imagine this will end up coming out in... what would we be talking about here? I imagine they're saying that, like, they're keeping the plot under wraps because the script is still being written. So likely not going to camera this year, probably more into early next year, middle next year. So probably seeing this in 2023, but something to look forward to. And I wonder if this leads to a broader arrangement between Netflix and Noah Hawley, because I know that Netflix likes, along with the other streaming giants, they like just buying the future rights for a lot of different creators. And I wonder if perhaps that is something that will happen with Noah Hawley here. And also the extent to which Netflix is aware of him as a known quantity. Fargo is like all over Netflix, at least it is in Canada. I guess now it will be moving back to FX now. But it did stream on on Netflix Canada for a long time. So they know how audiences respond to Noah Hawley's work. So that probably also played a part in this deal. So that said, and we'll do one more before I take a break. This one coming from Cinema Blend, and guess what, everybody? Sonic the Hedgehog 2 has confirmed the return of another star. Sonic 2 casting news. Hold on to your butts. We're going in. This is going to be fun. This is coming from Adrian Patterson, writing for Cinema Blend. Being the surprise critical and box office hit of 2020, Sonic the Hedgehog served as one of the last hurrahs for Hollywood before theaters in Hollywood shut down. It was, for a very long time, the highest grossing film of 2020, I believe. Or was that Bad Boys 3? It doesn't matter. Since its release, moviegoers have been anticipating what the sequel will have in store for Sonic and his friends. There have been some leaks to come from the film set. While fans notice certain cast members posting online, they've been waiting to hear from others. Months after the film wrapped production, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 finally confirmed the return of another beloved character. Leave it to Twitter to give Sonic fans an exciting piece of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 news. The film's official Twitter account decided to let moviegoers know that Lee Majub's Agent Stone will be returning for the Sonic sequel. The relationship between Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik and his right-hand man, Agent Stone, was one of the video game-based film's highlights. Check out the movie's special nod to this welcomed announcement. Now, having not seen the Sonic film yet, I cannot speak about the relationship between these two characters. So I will have to rely on you, dear viewers, to let me know if this is good news or bad news. I have no idea. I have no stake in this fight. But it sounds like this is something that fans are happy about or would be happy about, which makes me smile. I like knowing that fans are having good times. Of course, Lee Majub's return for Sonic 2 would feature a coffee homage to Agent Stone and Dr. Robotnik's codependent relationship. Seeing Stone and Robotnik's face enshrined in coffee foam was the perfect way to get fans excited. Referring to the tweet. The National Coffee Day nod referenced the scene where the right-hand man interrupted the Mad Genius dancing to give him a latte. So the reference was nice for fans of the original film. And, I imagine, for fans of coffee and lattes. With Agent Stone's return, it might lead to fans guessing about Dr. Robotnik's fate within Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Of course, the last time viewers saw Robotnik, he found himself, spoilers everybody, wandering around Sonic's homeworld, plotting his revenge. It will be nice to see how Stone and Robotnik's relationship develops once the Sonic sequel arrives in theaters. Hopefully, Lee Majub will have a bigger role in the follow-up compared to the first film. One can always hope. There's a little bit more written here, but I don't think we have to get into it. The main thrust of this article is that a beloved character from the first film, allegedly beloved, I'm taking Cinema Blend's word on this one, is returning, and people, allegedly, are happy about it. And that's good. People deserve to be happy. Don't we all, as people, deserve to be happy? So that is about that. There's still a lot more to go through, including a lot of horror stuff at the very end, as we've been doing the last couple of days, because we are in October, everybody. But I am going to take a quick break. I've been into this for about an hour and a half now, and I'll be right back with more movie news. So I think I already set myself up, but I'll just do it again. I'll be right back.
Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, say, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. You understand?
Back in a minute.
Be right back.
I'll be right back.
Be right back. Give me 1 second.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back, Dan.
Okay, I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. Don't get dressed.
I'll be back.
Be right back with a search warrant.
I'm coming right back.
I'll be right back.
Hey, buddy, you pay for the drinks. I gotta go to John. I'll be right back. Gotta introduce Mr. Thick Dick to Mr. Urinal Cake.
Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, say, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. You understand?
Back in a minute.
Be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. Give me 1 second.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back, Dan.
Okay, I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. Don't get dressed.
I'll be back.
Be right back with a search warrant.
I'm coming right back.
I'll be right back.
Hey, buddy, you pay for the drinks. I gotta go to the John. I'll be right back. Gonna introduce Mr. Thick Dick to Mr. Urinal Cake.
Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, say, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. You understand?
Back in a minute. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back, Dan.
Okay, I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
All right, cinephiles, we are back. Well, I'm back. We're all back. I took a little bit of a break, took a look to see if there's any breaking news. There's one thing that I added to the very end, which can be kind of a fun October 1st Friday thing that we can do. Whether or not it'll be fun, I don't know, but we can at least check something out. I did want to address quickly. Brent said that he has 1 of 3 movies that he's given a perfect score to, and then I asked him what movies, and then he responded, Aliens, Serenity, and Aladdin. And yeah, Serenity, I forgot that you love that movie as much as you do. But pretty awesome to see. Some decent movies. ASA. Something about that acronym gives me pause. But that doesn't tell us anything about the film's quality. Anyways, let's get right back into this film news. Starting first with this article from Cine Europa about Romain Gavras, who I will always follow the career of because he is the son of Costa Gavras, one of my favorite directors who worked in the 60s and in the 70s. He directed Zed, State of Siege, other movies. Really great, politically focused director, did lots of amazing stuff. And I would love to do a video on Zed on this channel one day. But anyways, I was not aware of this, but Romain Gavras was actually shooting something and it has completed filming. So let's just learn a little bit more about this. After 2 months of filmings in the Parc aux Lèvres, stick around for my terrible French accent as I try to read French things in this story. Neighborhood in Yves Corcoros in the outlying Paris suburbs, in a housing project chosen by the director for its airs of fortified castle and its atmosphere, rather timeless within a very contemporary environment. Romain Gavras's Moussa is now in post-production. The cast of his third feature film from the director of Our Day Will Come and The World Is Yours includes rising star Dali Ben Salah, a revelation in the series Savages, appreciated recently in the Cannes in La Travita, My Brothers and I, currently in cinemas in No Time to Die, and next year, oh my god, there was a lot going on inside those brackets. The now well-known Anthony Bajon, who is the winner of the Best Actor Award in Berlin in 2018 for The Prayer. Just going to skip to the end of that of that bracket. Listing off other actors who are in this. Yes. So what's interesting to me here, and then I noticed this as I was sort of scanning through this article before, is that the film is being written by Romain Gavras, but also Lajli, who was the writer-director of the film Les Miserables, which came out in 2020. And actually, there's a video about Les Miserables on this channel already. Pretty excited to see what these two gentlemen are able to put together, putting their heads together. I imagine that because they're shooting in a Paris suburb, there's just going to be a lot of social commentary in this as well. And based on what Romain Gavras and Lajli have done in the past, it makes a lot of sense that this would be a politically charged film of some kind. So then let's see if we get a bit more information about the film. Moussa is produced by Iconoclast Films directly for Netflix. So this will be going to Netflix, which has significantly increased its contribution to the French film industry as part of the entry into force in France since July 1st, 2020, of the Cinemateq decree that includes funding obligations for SVOD platforms. 20% or 25% of their turnover in France must go towards the production of cinematic and audiovisual works that are European or of French origin, of which at least 20% must go towards film projected in cinemas. Some tensions remain, however, as the new media chronology law, which dictates the rhythm of films' release on various distribution platforms, that was supposed to come with said reform is still in limbo because it depends on the result of interprofessional negotiations where the interests and demands of cinemas, pay TV broadcasters such as Canal+, free TV channels, and SVOD platforms are very different to reconcile. There are way too many brackets in this article. Along its other directly produced French film, Netflix also, this is getting into other films, so there's not really a lot here about the film that Gavras himself directed, which is a shame. I would have hoped for a little bit more information on it. But as this is being directed by Gavras, and it's being written by Gavras and allegedly, who did Les Miserables, I am super excited for this. I can't wait to see it. If they're in post-production now, I assume it will be out within the next 4 to 6 months, depending on windowing and things like this. Honestly, because of everyone involved, this could end up being a contender for Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars, perhaps not this year, but next year. It will be something to watch out for, and this could also easily be something that is a festival darling next year. Actually, because of the of their in post-production now, they could be aiming to try and get the film into Cannes for next year, which would be in around June. So if the film wraps post-production in 2 to 3 months, that puts you into early 2022. Yeah, Cannes would probably be where they try to get the film premiered. In competition, no doubt. Or as part of the director's fortnight, but I think they would prefer in competition. Or I guess as part of the En certain regard one as well. In any case, good news all around. Always happy to see that Gavras is still producing and still directing films. So next we move on to an opinion piece from IndieWire written by Ann Thompson. And this one I wanted to bring up because this channel does talk about the Oscars at length forever and ever and ever. And this, I don't know, I'm going to read through it and I'm going to let everyone who's watching kind of decide for themselves whether or not this is meant to be tongue-in-cheek or whether this is a sincere thing that Ann Thompson is advocating for. To quote the headline, "We need the Academy Awards to save movies that only get made because the Oscars exist." The Oscars are much more than shallow red carpets and entitled narcissists. The film industry's ecosystem is at stake. So let's get into this opinion piece. It's sport to make fun of the Oscars, and after April's anemic pandemic show, there's nowhere to go but up. I actually kind of like the way that they did the previous show, except for how they did not put Best Picture last. You always put Best Picture last. But the Oscars are more than shallow red carpet glamour and awarding gold statues to entitled narcissists. With Hollywood studios no longer primarily invested in movies, which is such a sad statement, the film industry's ecosystem is at stake. We need to revitalize Oscars to save the kind of quality movies that are only getting made because the awards exist. Oscars and their future have not been the primary focus of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences of late. It's placed much of its time, energy, and resources into the long gestating Academy Museum of Motion Pictures, which we're going to be talking about a little bit later, which finally, after long delays that included the pandemic lockdown, celebrated its September 30th opening with a series of costly galas. The museum is a delightful experience for any cinephile, no question, but its 4 gallery floors look into the rear view of the film medium. Representing the future of cinema is one hallway displaying a scroll of quotes from industry leaders. Ugh. With the museum launched, Academy CEO Don Hudson and the Board of Governors face a myriad of tough questions. Like the BAFTAs, they've ably handled inclusion questions by actively enlarging and diversifying the Academy over the 6 years since Oscars So White. Those initiatives will continue as filmmakers interested in Oscar eligibility will also have to meet reasonably flexible inclusion standards. While the return of mainstream features in theaters should expand the Oscar telecast audience, whose ratings, along with all award shows, decline, without the Oscars, some of the industry's best films will disappear. Here's why, with candid input from some insiders who were only willing to share their thoughts anonymously. Ooh, anonymous quotes. My favorite. For one, they maintain movie standards. Yeah. A range of quality movies only find backing because potential awards, critics, guilds, indie spirits, Oscars boost marketing and awareness of a low-key film that otherwise would not stand a chance. I don't know about this statement. Oscar campaigns expand a movie's audience, and like that's true. But so many movies get made. So many movies. And there are so many good movies that get made that don't get Oscar campaigns. The idea that we would need the Oscars in order to keep the standard of filmmaking high is kind of wrong, right? Like, think about how many films get into TIFF every year. If it's a normal year, it's over 300 films coming from all over the world. And while they may all have aspirations to be nominated for Oscars, a lot of them are just artists making the best possible film that they can. And those standards are already quite high. So, like, for a lot of these people, an Oscar is nice, but it's not the main focus of why they're making these films in the first place. So this idea that we need awards in order to keep the standard of filmmaking high is not something I agree with. To quote random anonymous person, with all its faults, it's still the standard we strive to hit when we are making films, wrote one studio specialty film distributor in an email. I compare it to sports. There are issues with the way that teams get into the Super Bowl, NBA Finals, or the World Series, but we still want to see who wins. We still acknowledge their accomplishments. According to one New York entertainment lawyer, the Oscars have spawned an entire subset of movies. Harvey Weinstein, boo. Sole existing legacy in this business, apart from his disgustingly piggish and criminal behavior, is that he is primarily responsible for creating the awards film as a genre, not unlike horror and the rom-com, the lawyer wrote. Even though this genre of film doesn't necessarily make sense from a financial standpoint, the prestige and bragging rights they bring to the studios / platforms somehow justifies its existence and the insane marketing money spent to win. But like, the Oscars have existed for 90 years. I understand what they're saying. Like, we all have seen videos on YouTube that go after like the trailer of, like, you know, the standard Academy fare, and we kind of like point to films being like, oh, this film is specifically an Academy Award film. So I get what they're trying to say here, but this was not always true in film history. And I think that what they're talking about here, that the prestige and bragging rights that this brings to studio, that always existed. That is not something that only started existing when we started thinking about awards films as being a potential genre. Yeah. To continue, this phenomenon helps to protect an entire form of literary storytelling whose existence might otherwise not, who might otherwise be endangered, and we would all be the worse off for that. Okay. They amplify the success of movies on a global scale. Oscar contention, especially major category wins, yield big numbers. Guillermo del Toro's Best Picture winning The Shape of Water, an artful romantic period piece, cost $19 million and collected $198 million worldwide, plus ancillary markets. Even during a pandemic, another Searchlight film, the small-scale Nomadland, grossed close to $40 million. This is what drives the Oscar market. Specialty distributors in the Oscar business such as Searchlight, Focus Features, A24, Sony Pictures Classics, Roadside Attractions, Neon, and more need awards attention for their movies and the word of mouth that builds over a long run in theaters. No, they don't. So many A24, Neon Film, Searchlight, Focus Features, so many of their films are not in the Oscar race. Like, even for right now, A24, they've got The Tragedy of Macbeth, and I think that's the only one that they've got going into it. Neon right now probably has Titan, but like that's not an Oscar movie. So I don't know what this is talking about. Like, yes, they have all had films that have done well at the Oscars, but it is not their like sole thing that they are trying to get. Obviously the Oscars do business for them, but it's not the only thing. I don't think A24 looked at a movie like Lamb, which is coming out, which is a folktale, or a film like The Witch, or a film like It Comes at Night, and says, ah, yes, we will get this film paid for because of its Oscar run. Like, absolutely not. It is maybe one film out of a year of releases for each of these that might have a shot at gaining traction at the Oscars. And to have that be your business strategy is a poor-ass business strategy. They promote movies and moviegoing. That I will agree with. That means keeping the art houses open. Right now, all the indies are booking even their best movies. Titan, Bergman Island for shorter runs on more screens, bypassing the costly limited release platform model and heading for the security of premium VOD will not sustain art houses. Last year's slimmed down and eccentric Oscar telecast obscured the Academy's underlying mission to promote movies. That message is essential in pushing revitalized theater going around the world. It's also a message that seems lost as Hudson focuses on transitioning the Academy to a streaming universe, softening theatrical eligibility rules, and shutting down Academy screenings, citing pandemic protocols, in favor of the online screening portal. Distributors pay $12,500 per Best Picture contender. It will be fascinating to see where the Academy rules settle post-pandemic. Amaya is saying, LOL, A24 has a reputation of not giving a damn about the awards campaign. There you go. And also the fact that the Academy, loosened its eligibility rules during a pandemic should not really be taken as an indication of how the Academy is going to go into the future. I'm sure that the Academy, in association with theaters, is going to try and get people back into theaters. They want people going to theaters. That's how this whole thing works. And yes, they do have to loosen eligibility rules for streaming, but also they don't. They don't have to at all. A lot of their eligibility things have to do with a film being played in a certain county in California for a week. And we already know that Netflix has partnerships with specific theaters. They own the Paris Theater in New York. They have a partnership with TIFF in Toronto. Netflix films almost always end up in theaters. The big ones do. I saw what was it? The Timothy Chalamet medieval King movie. I think it was called. Was it just called The King? I saw that at the Bell Lightbox on just a random afternoon. I saw Marriage Story on a random afternoon. I saw The Irishman one evening at the Lightbox. I'm still seeing these movies in theaters because Netflix makes them available because they know that they need to be in theaters. And so the fact that we think that these eligibility rules need to be changed in order to appease streamers is false, because they will just release these films for a week where they need to in order for them to be eligible. That's it. It's super simple. And they were doing it before the pandemic. So this idea that the Academy needs to change in order to adapt to streaming services is not necessarily true. Hudson is friendly with Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos and brought him in as chair of the museum board of trustees to replace scandal-tainted Universal boss Ron Meyer. While Governor Steven Spielberg once led the anti-Netflix charge, he now has a deal there along with half of Hollywood. Sarandos cares about the Oscars and has a mighty awards team to prove it, because it's the most powerful way to brand a movie and turn it into must-see. He has been vying for a place on the board of governors, call it ironic, but if anyone can figure out how some smart solutions for saving the Oscars, it's him. Oscars enhance movie star profiles, young and old. Timothée Chalamet's career took off after he was nominated for Best Actor for Call Me By Your Name. This year, he could be back with Dune. He is not getting nominated for Dune. Let's be real. No actor in Dune outside of maybe Rebecca Ferguson is getting nominated for Dune. Oscar perennials become quality brands, with record 21-time nominee Meryl Streep and runner-up Jack Nicholson with 12, to recent arrival Olivia Colman. She's been on a roll since she won for The Favorite, landing a nomination for The Father and an Emmy win for The Crown. She could return with The Lost Daughter, which I've heard is actually quite good. While having a hit TV show like The Crown builds worldwide fame, most stars still fantasize about winning the Oscar more than the Emmy. And also, there's the prestige and glamour of the Oscars. The Oscars' prestige is irreplaceable. I mean, I don't know if that's true. If its prestige was so irreplaceable, would TV audiences be declining year over year? I will admit, though, that as someone who has often fantasized about working in the film industry, I've done my Oscars acceptance speech in my head a number of times. And in fact, I have a few different ones. So I understand what they're saying here. It's something that people aspire to. And when it comes to film history, when you're trying to figure out what were the most important films of a certain generation, of a certain time, of a certain year, one of the easiest ways to at least start that search is by looking at what was nominated and who won Oscars in that particular year or over a particular time period. That is true. The Oscars are still the height of that. The Oscars prestige is irreplaceable. It's a seal of approval from 9,300 hand-selected members representing 17 branches of the industry. Glamour is its own industry, of course, and the churning awards machine generates income for many. Ultimately, all that shiny stuff represents a singular goal: get people to watch movies. When they are mainstream movies people care about, viewers tune in. Let's see how fall movies deliver, from The Last Duel to House of Gucci. They represent the elite, which is not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. If you couldn't tell, because of my pro-labor stance, I'm also anti-elite. So while I applaud Scarlett Johansson for getting $40 million of a lawsuit, I also want that money to be taxed heavily so that America can have like healthcare and stuff, as an example. This is a double-edged sword. The Oscars need to stay classy and aspirational, but they increasingly alienate vast swaths of moviegoers who see them as simply representing woke limousine liberals, which is silly because a lot of Hollywood is actually conservative because they want to hang on to their money, especially when we're talking about like studio heads and things like this. The Board of Governors often have blind spots when it comes to marketing themselves and the Oscars. As they cater to ABC's demands for a popular show with younger appeal, the board also makes dumbfounding rule changes, like not announcing all the craft categories or Best Popular Film, requiring voters to be active. That generates so much blowback that they wind up reversing themselves. I'll get back to the chat as soon as I'm done just this one point. Some Hollywood insiders think that the Oscars should be more democratized. The Oscars are only vital for the industry's future if they can engage their widest possible audience in celebrating the cinema, finding ways to make it relevant to many, fun, inspiring, and important to culture, wrote one independent producer, adding that the awards risk further alienating the public by continuing to feel self-congratulatory, insular, and elitist. But like, they're awards. How are awards not elitist? That's the point. The person who is the best gets the award. They become elite once they win the award, and in cases when they even get nominated for the award. I understand the need for it to stop being so self-congratulatory and insular, but awards by definition are elitist. They have to be. They're awards. But yes, I'll go back to the chat. Oh, Dory, just got out of the theaters from watching Venom 2. You mean this whole time you weren't even watching, Dory? You were watching a silly movie about a symbiote? That's cool, though. It was fun, very similar to the first movie. That's about what I expected. Glad to have you back in the chat. Amaya is saying, how are the Academy Awards helping promote small movies when they only nominate films that can afford a massive award campaign? That is an interesting point, Amaya, and I think you're onto something there. If they wanted to promote small but good films, movies like The Farewell, The Lighthouse, Gone Girl, etc. would have not been snubbed like they were. Gone Girl was not a small film. I know what you're saying, and I think you are correct. Personally, I think like The Farewell and The Lighthouse should have gotten far more awards nominations than they were. The Lighthouse especially. But yeah, Gone Girl I don't think was a small film. And I will back that up by doing a Google search. Because, like, Gone Girl is a Ben Affleck movie starring Ben Affleck. That had to have a budget behind it. Oh, it was a mid-budget. $61 million. What do you know about that? But it also did a whole lot of box office, so I feel like they would have had the money to do an awards campaign if they really wanted to. Okay, so let's get this back. The next point was that the Oscar spotlight can't shrink. Hosting the show is now a social media liability. With few hosts willing to take it on, the awards have been going hostless and losing a lot of pizzazz in the process. And this, honestly, is not something that should be hard to rectify or hard to account for. Just figure out who you want to host way in advance. Do a quick search, well, not even a quick search. Do a deep dive of their Twitter feed. If it turns out that they are like white supremacists, or they said some racist things or some sexist things, you move on to the next one. That's it. It's not that hard. Why not get not Whoopi Goldberg, get fucking Oprah to host the Oscars? Why not? Is anyone going to complain about Oprah? Probably not. I doubt it. What about Neil Patrick Harris? Get him to host the Academy Awards. Why not? Like, come on, this shit is not that hard. You just have to stop picking people who are extremely problematic. Anyways. It's the big spotlight, said director Paul Schrader, who has done the recently released Card Counter, on the phone. We saw last year what happens when you put a dimmer on the big spotlight. It probably would have been better just to have a virtual announcement last year. It made the awards feel small, which is death to the concept of the Academy Awards. We have to reassert its place as the big show. So it has to be the big show, but it can't be elitist or insular or self-congratulatory. Schrader proposes 2 shows on 2 nights, one for episodic television, one for standalone theatrical movies. It could double their appeal. Best Picture Episodic and Best Picture Feature. Wait, what the fuck does that even mean? They have to do something to make them feel big and important again. Most people are watching The Crown. That hurts. The Oscars have to find a way to accommodate that. The Emmys do that. Is Paul Schrader seriously suggesting that the Oscars, in order to expand their base, need to also become the Emmys? That's ridiculous. The Oscars have to find a way to accommodate that. No, what? No, just think about this. Like, were we having this conversation when the fucking finale for MASH was seen by like 80 or 100 million people? No, of course not. Why is this a talking point now? No, this is wrong. I'm sorry, Paul Schrader. I disagree. He goes on to say, I don't think they have a lot of choice. They keep having diminishing returns. Somebody's got to pay for the museum. I mean, members of the Academy are probably paying for it. But still, I think this is just a really weird and not good take by Paul Schrader. Suggesting that in order for the Academy Awards to survive and to have that big spotlight, to then also include television awards. Like, not to say that the television is not deserving of awards or that it's not a worthy medium or that it's a lesser medium. The point here, though, is that that we have awards for television. The Emmys. And, like, I guess you could point to an award show like the Golden Globes, which does movies and television, but that's the Golden Globes. We don't need the Oscars to be the Golden Globes. We need the Oscars to be the Oscars. So I don't know, everyone. There's a lot in this article, in this opinion piece, that is talking to people who are in the industry, of course. So their opinions do matter, and their opinions can hold sway. But there's just a lot of things that I find strange about what they're talking about here. As much as I enjoy the Oscars, and I think it's great that it exists, I don't really see it affecting things if it were to just suddenly go away and disappear. Like, let's say the Oscars no longer existed and all we were left with were the SAG Awards, the DGAs, the PGAs, the Golden Globes, the Critics' Choice Awards, and all of the other American awards, not to mention the fact that every single other country in the world that has a large movie market has award shows of their own. You have the Caesar Awards in France. You have the Canadian Screen Awards in Canada. I'm sure a lot of other places have them. I know Japan has their own award show. Germany has their own award show. And so if the Oscars just disappears, it doesn't mean that prestige films stop being made. Because, of course, prestige films will keep being made. Just like how B movies keep being made. Sci-fi films keep being made. You know, horror movies keep being made. And while there are smaller award shows for a lot of those different things, the Saturn Awards for sci-fi, I'm sure there's horror awards out there somewhere, the existence of these films is not predicated on the fact that they are competing for something. Film is an art form. People will continue to make art, even if the Oscars don't exist. Now, the extent to which the general audience or general population will be aware of these films, I understand that. I understand that point. The Oscars has a way of shining a spotlight on films, but we also have to just accept the fact that certain films of quality are able to generate their spotlight on their own. Parasite, as an example, did not become the darling of the movie world because it won an Oscar. It became the darling of the film world because it burst onto the scene at Cannes, won the Palme d'Or, was the first South Korean film to ever win the Palme d'Or at Cannes, and then when people started seeing it, people realized that it was amazing, that it was a great film, and then it was able to leverage that word of mouth into a continuing campaign, which then led to people thinking like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if it won the award? But we were so convinced that it wouldn't, that even before the Oscars even started, we were saying to ourselves, well, they're probably not going to give it to a South Korean film. They're not going to give it to a foreign film. That's never going to happen. If Parasite had not won the Oscar, that wouldn't have changed everything that had happened before that. Parasite would still have been considered the best film of the year by pretty much everybody. General audiences, critics, it would have still been one of the best movies of the year, if not the best film of the year. Winning the Oscar or being nominated for the Oscar doesn't change that. And it also doesn't mean that when Bong Joon-ho was creating Parasite, he was specifically thinking, I have to make this film to a certain level because I want to win an Oscar. He was saying, I need to make the best film that I can because I am a passionate filmmaker and this is the only way I know how to do things. Artists like Bong Joon-ho don't know how to make something that is not up to their personal standard or quality. And there are many artists out there like that who do not need the Oscars as something to aspire to in order to create their best work. So this notion that the Oscars are necessary in order to keep the standards of movies high is ridiculous. And if you want to stop the self-congratulatory nature of the Oscars, you need to step away from that kind of thinking. In my opinion. So that said, let me know what you think about it in the chat, or if you're watching this a lot time later or later today, please let me know what you think in the comments below. It seems like Mena has added to their point. They made a mistake by not having a host in 2021. The ceremony was very different from past Academy Awards. A host would have helped the show move smoothly. I agree. But they also, it's not like they were hostless. They just didn't have a single host. I think Regina King started it, and yeah, they had various people do certain things. I think, didn't they also have like Helen Mirren like shake her booty a little bit? That was also something that happened at the Oscars last year. So I don't know. I'm not sure what point I'm trying to make with talking about Helen Mirren shaking her butt, except for the fact that it was great. But yeah, obviously I think the Oscars need to change. Some of what they're talking about in here though is ridiculous. It's just stuff that they probably wouldn't even consider. Like adding television categories? No. Absolutely not. Maya adding, I agree the Oscars are a very good way of celebrating filmmaking, but that doesn't mean filmmaking is all about winning Oscars. Thank you for so succinctly putting it like that. I took a much longer way around to actually talking about that. But now that we've talked about the Oscars a lot, and this was mentioned in this article, it's time for the museum. Oh, it was Glenn Close who shook that ass. Apologies for forgetting that. I must have burned that out of my mind. I was probably so angry about Octopus Teacher winning that I just forgot that it was Glenn Close who was shaking that ass. So speaking of the Academy and the museum, which was mentioned in the last opinion piece, the Academy Museum of Motion Picture opens to the public after civic dedication, and there are some photos here to go along with it. I'm hoping that there's actually some photos in here of the interior of the museum, as opposed to just the civic dedication. But let's go through a bit of this article before we start looking at some of those photos. And apparently this museum cost $484 million, or as we will now refer to it, about 12 Scarlett Johansson lawsuit settlements. This morning, the dedication ceremony and official ribbon cutting of the highly anticipated Academy Museum of Motion Pictures kicked off, attended by civic and cultural leaders from the Academy Museum and the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Click on the above to see the photos. Yeah, we'll get there. This is just talking about the museum. Okay, so let's just look at these photos. Let's see what we get. So here we got a dude with his finger guns. Pew pew. And yes, Brent, they did abandon their idea of creating an award for the most popular movie, which is something that I kind of agree with. I think it's kind of a shitty thing to just say like, oh, popular movies can't compete or should not compete against films that are specifically designed to be like good. So I don't know. It's just weird like having there be like a most popular film award, because then like if you're gonna do that, then it can't just be voted on by the Academy, because then like you have to wonder like how. And I know this came up when we were talking, or when everyone was talking about how this award would actually work. Like, how do you nominate the most popular film? Is it domestic box office? So then are the nominees the top five performing films at the domestic box office? And then it's like, okay, so it's a category of Marvel and Disney films. Cool. I guess Fast and Furious makes it on there every once in a while. And so then we're deciding which of the top five grossing films of the year was best. Like, I don't know. I just didn't really see the reason or the need to do that personally. And it seems like you agree, and that is a stupid category for sure. So we'll go back to these photos of the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures. Once again, finger gun dude being super happy about stuff. It looks like here they are waiting for people to actually come in. Oh, this is Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti doing the finger guns. And going back to the point about the best popular film, it was a desperation move. Yes, I agree. And here we have the civic dedication opening ceremony. Got some people cutting a ribbon because things don't exist for real until a ribbon is cut in front of them. Got some fancy people dressing all fancy, being super happy about the Academy Museum actually opening up. And oh my God, people are inside, and this is pretty uninspiring. Is this just concrete? They spent $480 million on a mostly concrete interior? Oy vey. The Sabin building, like Power Rangers Sabin? Who paid for this? I guess here this is more of a an actual exhibit. Whenever I go into a gallery or museum and I see exhibits like this, I'm like, this is so strange. You have one seat, so I assume that everything in the room has been arranged around this one seat, this guy sitting down with the hat on, and then everyone else just kind of like comes in and sees what's going on and is like, oh, this is fun, and then they just walk away. And there's what the museum actually looks like from the exterior, although this looks like a CGI rendering of it. This is what I most want to see. Look at this fucking movie theater. Look at this goddamn thing. I have not seen a theater like this, honestly, since like looking up images of movie palaces from like the 20s and 30s. This is a crazy ass theater. It's huge. It's way too red. But just look at it. God damn, imagine seeing a movie here. Imagine being in the front row right there and watching like 2001: A Space Odyssey on this screen. My God. Give me some of that. And actually something that I haven't looked into, but I know, now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of want to. It brought into my mind nitrate film, which if you've seen Inglourious Bastards, that's the style of film stock they used leading up to about 1950, 1951, where the film stock would, kind of suddenly catch fire if it felt like it, and would burn down movie palaces. And currently in the United States, there are 3 theaters that are specially equipped to actually screen nitrate film. One of them's in Rochester, and I think 2 of them are in Los Angeles. And I'm wondering if this theater has been equipped to show nitrates, to show nitrate film, because that would be really cool to see like nitrate screenings of like early Hitchcock films or something like that at this place. That would be phenomenal. That would be something I would love to do. Here's another part of the building. This looks kind of like the theater area, and I think up there is where they were doing some of the musical performances from the Oscars last year. It's pretty nice. Pretty nice. I'm excited to eventually visit here when I feel comfortable enough traveling to America, which honestly is probably about a decade away at this point. BTW, Americans, get vaccinated so I can come give you my tourist dollars. All right, so we've done enough talking about the Academy. Let's get back to some lawsuit talk. So yesterday I talked about this briefly. There was a lawsuit that was leveled by the original writer of the Friday the 13th film, famous for, Jason Voorhees and all that kind of stuff. And he won his original lawsuit, and then that lawsuit was then taken up in an appeals court, and the appeals court decided that the writer of Friday the 13th was correct and that the initial thing was fine. And so here we are. Everything's cool. So now we have people talking about, and this is from Ryan Scott at /Film, talking about the ramifications that this appeals court decision could have on companies like Marvel, because when we start talking about studios like Marvel, whose properties are all based off of sometimes contract work and figuring out who actually owns the rights to certain things, this could be a problem for them. So let's get into this a little bit after I sip some tea, because my throat is starting to get a little raw. You guys might not know this about me, but after this live stream is done on Fridays, I just don't speak for 2 days straight. That's not true. Horror fans have a glimmer of hope, albeit with many caveats, that a new Friday the 13th movie could finally be on the horizon. Screenwriter Victor Miller, which was the lawsuit we were talking about yesterday, has just scored a huge victory in court after years of battling it out for the rights of the iconic horror franchise. Not the franchise, for the domestic rights of the original script of the first film, to be clear. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of all of that in a moment. As it stands, Miller is now poised to regain the rights to the franchise, at least in the US, in the not-too-distant future. Is that true? So we've already covered a lot of this. I want to get more into why this will affect Marvel, particularly. This will have major implications for Hollywood, as other writers are currently attempting to get the rights back to their IP. Specifically, Marvel is currently fighting to keep the rights to some of its biggest characters, and this decision may set a precedent for other cases to follow. So I don't really think we need to get into the story so far. Let's get into what this means for other franchises. Other writers have the right to exercise copyright termination as well, which is how the original writer of Friday the 13th, was able to get the rights back, was using this thing called copyright termination. And the rights for many beloved franchises are at stake here. Clive Barker already successfully regained the rights to Hellraiser, and Wes Craven's estate has the rights to A Nightmare on Elm Street. Most importantly, Marvel is fighting off several such copyright termination claims from the estates of creators like Mike Ditko and Stan Lee. At the center of these legal battles are Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Thor, and other massive franchises. As such, the eyes of rights holders in Hollywood are watching the situation closely, and now there is a precedent set in favor of the creators. So, obviously, if these different lawsuits go the same way as the Friday the 13th lawsuit, and has already happened with Hellraiser and Nightmare on Elm Street, Marvel could soon lose control of some of its biggest characters, which honestly just means that they would then have to pay to get the rights back for these characters if this were to happen, something that they obviously can do because they're fucking billionaires, and they're not going to let something like this stand in their way. What also may end up happening, though, is that since Marvel would probably rather fight this out in court than just pay people more money, because I imagine it would be simpler and cheaper for them to go through the courts as opposed to just paying people. I know they did the opposite of that with Scarlett Johansson, but that I think was more of a saving face kind of thing, whereas in this case, they have no one really to save face from. Like, I don't think anyone's really going to be as emotionally invested as the estates of Stan Ditko and Stan Lee, like, retaining rights on stuff. There might be an emotional component to it, but I see this as being more of a fight that Marvel wants to take up. Also just because of the broader implications it has. And so we could actually see this eventually move to a place like the Supreme Court, where Marvel would be fighting to get the rights back. So let's say the estates of Steve Ditko and Stan Lee are able to win these lawsuits or win their termination claims against Marvel. That would then go to appeals court, which would probably then look to the precedent of the other appeals court and say, well, no, this is all good and fine, which would then leave Marvel with the option of then appealing to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, being as conservative as it is, will probably want to at least look at this because they would love the opportunity to be pro-business, because that's what they're all about. So this could eventually lead to a Supreme Court battle as to copyright law and who owns the rights to works that were created by independent writers, which is all very fascinating. I actually don't know which way this will end up going. The current decision, as it was made for Victor Miller, is already a big win. And if it gets held up as precedent, that will just be an awesome thing to see creators get their stuff back from these corporations, and get paid. get properly paid for what they created, which is always what I am concerned with. People getting paid for the work that they have done. It puts a smile on your face, doesn't it? All right. So now we move into the horror section of the podcast, or the podcast. This ain't no podcast. The horror section of this live stream. And the first thing is something that I'm pretty interested in checking out myself, is a brand new streaming service, which I usually would not cover because we all have too many streaming services. But this one is from Kino Lorber, who are an incredible distributor who specialize in European art house cinema for the most part. They do a lot of restorations of older films. They do a lot of great stuff. They have launched a free streaming service. So it's free. You don't have to pay for it. And it's specifically for cult films. And this, of course, came out the day before October 1st. And you're now finding out about it, dear viewers, on October 1st. It's spooky season time. Let's watch some cult movies. I'm sure there's going to be some cool stuff on here. I'm also interested to know if it's going to be ad-driven, which is why it's free, which doesn't actually mean it's free. They've just kind of like moved the money around a little bit. Anyways, let's read more about this. And then we'll actually go check out the platform itself and see what we can see. Because I don't even know if it's available in Canada. So who knows? Kino Lorber, the New York-based independent film distributor, is launching a free streaming channel dedicated to all things horror. Cha-ching. The platform, titled Kino Cult, will be ad-supported and will be featured hundreds of hours of curated films with new titles added monthly. It bows in the US and Canada on October 1st, today, just in time for spooky season. The channel will be available on web, mobile devices, and connected TVs that have access to Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and other on-demand apps. Kino Cult is being developed in partnership with Giant Pictures, which is responsible for the device apps, channel distribution, and ad tech in the new venture. From art house fare to haunted horror films, Kino Cult is offering a mix of recent releases and classic gems, including Anna Lily Alampour's black and white vampire film, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, pretty good movie. Yorgos Lanthimos' absurdist comedy Dogtooth, okay. South Korean neo-noir crime thriller Beast Crawling at Straws, ooh. And Guy Madden's The Forbidden Room, a little bit of Canadian content there for you. Kino Cult will also host curated categories such as Golden Age of Exploitation, 70s espionage or 60s espionage films in crime and suspense, 70s and 80s flashback, witchcraft, and devil worship in a cult. Oh, I love witchcraft movies, and of course devil worship. For many titles, it will be the first time they've been made available on a streaming platform. I mean, that's cool. If they're putting out stuff that hasn't been available previously, that's awesome. Also, something that I noted while we were going through this, A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, Dogtooth, I know are both available on the streaming service called shit. It's not called shit. It's called something else. Hold on, let me just check it on my phone. Canopy. They're available on Canopy, which is a streaming service that you can access through your local library if they subscribe to it. So it's a free streaming service. You get to watch 8 films per month for free, and there are no ads. And I know that A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night and Dogtooth are on there, so I'm wondering if it's somewhat of a similar distribution deal between the two. Kino Cult will stream in the darkest, and this is to quote, so this is probably just a marketing quote. Kino Cult will stream the darkest thrills of visionary midnight cinema to fans at home, says Kino Lorber CEO Richard Lorber. With our vast library built over 40 years and key partner labels in many genre specialties, we have enormous potential to hyper-serve genre audiences, the most passionate of all film lovers, with a selection of both new and rare films that they can't find anywhere else in incandescent HD. If it's actually in HD, that'll be good too. So my one issue with the Criterion channel is that a lot of their stuff I feel like is like DVD quality or maybe 720. Like not a lot of it is actually being shown in HD. You no longer need to live in a big city with a great repertory theater to have access to the kind of curated cult gems we're able to offer now for free. Asterisks. Before the end of the year, Kino Cult will also launch as a linear channel experience with its free ad-supported programming running 24/7 across multiple streaming devices. That's cool. So it'll be kind of like AMC Plus, which I actually pay money for. Kino Lorber has been steadily assembling a massive library of deliciously strange cinema, and we are delighted to unveil it in one destination. So that's just going to be more hobnobbery. Let's actually look at this thing. see what it looks like. That is not what I wanted. Kino Cult. Is there actual... There we go. Kino Cult. DRM free to... Yes. Welcome to Kino Cult. Recently added Sex Madness revealed. The Sex Madness? It's been revealed? My God. Let's see. So one thing I wanted to see with this, first of all, is how the website is designed. And like this right here at the top, this just looks so amateurish to me. What happens when we click on that? Welcome to Kino Cult. So they put a trailer at the top without... That's weird. But yeah, some of these look like they're in fairly good quality. Yeah. I see a lot of these are going to be coming from like Kino's, the stuff that they've restored. So a lot of these are going to look actually pretty good. There's a lot of... I'm not recognizing a lot of films, but there's a lot of images in here that I'm very intrigued by. All right, let's go back to the actual site. We don't need to watch a trailer. So drive-in favorites, and yeah, one of the things I wanted to see was if they would identify the films that haven't really been available before on a streaming service, because I would tend to go to those because I want to see stuff that people have never really seen before. So here, this is something I really love. They do have certain sections by director, and they have just all of Mario Bava's films. A Bay of Blood, if you're interested. Let's just click on it here. And then it just starts playing. They don't show you where the ad breaks are, though. Which is, I mean, is the smart thing to do. But it just streams here on the website. That's pretty wild. Auto 720. Oh, we can get it up to 1080p. Right on. So Bay of Blood, just to speak about it, is actually a proto-slasher, and it, like, is very much an influence for Friday the 13th, if you have not seen it. Basically, a bunch of teenagers go to a place that's on a lake, on a bay, and there's a serial killer that just murders everybody. Pretty good movie. But they also have... Oh, they have some of his Hercules movies here. That's awesome. Hatchet for the Honeymoon. I believe that's one of Bava's early Giallo films. Evil Eye. Okay, so they've got like, what, 8-ish films here by Bava? That's pretty good. For the occult, oh, Rocco just fell off the couch. Poor boy. Nosferatu, which, if you want to call that occult, like, okay, but they also got White Zombie, some classics. So those two are from like the 20s or 30s. Virgin Witch, I have not seen. Hard Boiled Horror, I'm not really sure what they are getting at with that, but with movies called Kill Billies and Those Who Deserve to Die, I imagine it's pretty gross stuff. Mod Love, I imagine those are British films from the 70s-ish. Looks like there's a little bit of a butt going on there with a pair of girls. Maybe there's just pornography on here. Who knows? We also have documentaries. Also just classics. Let's see what's here in the classics thing. See how classic it is. So we've got Metropolis. Do they say which version of Metropolis it is? Doesn't look like it. Also, interestingly enough, I think because this is... No, it won't quite line up. That's too bad. I was going to say, it'd be kind of interesting if Metropolis gets into the public domain in the exact year when it's supposed to take place. Metropolis, according to that little blurb, takes place in 2026. So let's see. We've got Boris Karloff's The Ape, Stanley Kubrick's Fear and Desire, Bela Lugosi's Devil Bat, The Flesh and the Fiends, The Blood of Jesus, The Growler Story, Match Him in Uniform. Ooh, the original Phantom of the Opera with Lon Chaney. That's fun. Yeah. Oh, and it's the colorized version. To those of you who are okay with a little bit of film history knowledge, a lot of films from the silent period actually weren't black and white. They were colored individually frame by frame. And one of the reasons why we think a lot of films from that time period are black and white is that there were black and white prints made of those original color versions, and those were the prints that ended up surviving. So that's why we think a lot of film from that early time period of cinema was black and white, when in fact they had colors added to them in post-production. Ooh, so now we get down into the golden age of exploitation. Sex Madness revealed. There it is again. She Should Have Said No is another one. That's interesting. Reefer Madness. Classic. Jess Franco's Strange Obsessions. I don't know any of these films. So this is not a collection of films that you will find other places. Like some of these things, like Nosferatu and White Zombie, you can probably watch them for free on YouTube. They're both in the public domain. Watch out for an announcement about the public domain picture show coming soon. Well, maybe not even coming soon. I'll probably just talk about it later today. But yeah, Nude Vampires, Frightmare. Frightmare looks like it's kind of up my alley. Pete Walker. Why do I know that name? Oh, yes. The pitching coach for the Toronto Blue Jays. Of course. Probably not the same guy. But yeah, this looks cool. And I look forward to seeing what they actually add to it further down the line, because this is kind of sparse, but it's also free. So yeah. And we have Dory jumping in here saying Anime Metropole is the best. Metropole. Anime Metropolis is the best. Funny story about me with Metropolis. I'm sure I've talked about this before, but with the Anime Metropolis, I've never actually seen the thing all the way through because I always fall asleep when I watch it. And I don't mean that as a knock against its quality at all. I can't help it. About 2/3 of the way through the film, I fall asleep, and then I wake up for the finale, the conclusion, which is great, which is amazing. So I've never seen the film all the way through because I can't keep my eyes open. And it doesn't matter when I watch it. I've watched it late night, the morning, the afternoon. I always fall asleep when I'm watching it, and I don't know why. So that is Kino Cult, a new streaming service for you guys to check out. Yeah, hopefully you are able to see some new films on there that you wouldn't have otherwise seen. Speaking of new films, did you guys know that Rob Zombie was making a new movie, and it's a remake of The Munsters? There's been some information coming out about it slowly, most of it being like teases of photos from set. And this one I wanted to add in because it is the spooky season and we should be talking about a Rob Zombie movie, I feel like. But it seems like this one actually is showing us that what the house is going to look like in its almost completed form. And so obviously they're still constructing this. It's not completely done yet, but it's getting pretty close. And that's looking pretty spooky to me. Let's see if we can go through here and see some of the other angles of it. Oh, there it is. In that nice idyllic suburb. What is this going to do to our property value? I wonder if this is yeah. I wonder if this is like on a lot somewhere and they were able to build the house. Or if they also had to build the exteriors of like these other houses in here as well. These could all just be like the fronts of fake houses and not actual houses themselves, as it looks like that's kind of what they're doing here as well. Although I imagine that since this will be like a set, they might actually build on the back. But you can kind of see here, you can look through the windows and see the trees and the sky in the background. So this is really just the front facade. But this is coming from Bloody Disgusting and Josh Squires. Thank you to both. And this is all we really know about the Munsters. You are now completely up to date about what we know about this film. I'm excited to see this. It seems like this is going to be a different kind of film for Rob Zombie, considering all of the films he's been producing recently, like both of the Halloween's films, The Devil's Rejects, Lords of Salem, which I was not a big fan of. So I'm hoping this kind of like lighter, goofier type of horror film will bring out a different side of Rob Zombie. And I always pull for him. I always want him to do well. Mostly because he is vegan and so is his wife. So they are part of my clan. And I want them to do as well as they possibly can. So from that, and let me know in the chat if you're kind of excited for this movie as well. And if you care about Rob Zombie's filmmaking adventures at all. But next, as we talk about more horror films, we're going to look at more images of horror films that are coming out. This is, to quote the Bloody Disgusting article written by Josh Squires. Thank you again, Mr. Squires. Welcome to the Blumhouse. Brand new images from all 4 new Halloween horror movies. So we've got a lot of horror movies coming from Blumhouse that we're going to see images from. This one already, right here, of this man who looks like he hasn't eaten in a little while. He's got his teeth out. He's wearing a hat. I don't like the looks of him at all. The partnership between Blumhouse and Amazon Prime continues when Welcome to Blumhouse returns with 4 brand new horror movies kicking off on October 1st. Produced by Blumhouse TV and Amazon Studios, Bingo Hell, Black as Night, Madras, and The Manor premiere worldwide this October, exclusively on Amazon Prime Video. The Welcome to Blumhouse slate once again showcases both well-established and breakout actors collaborating with emerging, predominantly female directors. Bingo Hell and Black as Night kick things off on October 1st, also known as today, and followed by Madras and The Manor on October 8th. So now we get to check out some images. Why did I just skip? That was weird. Why not come up with a new idea? Gloria Miller, thank you for getting into the chat and asking that question. Good to have you here. I assume you're talking about Rob Zombie. This is kind of like a common thing, a common question that the lovers of cinema always seem to ask. Why not just come up with an original idea? And I guess depending on how you approach that question, it can come down to the fact that you can think of it as there are no original ideas. There are, 13 archetypal stories, and we're always just putting characters with different names into those same types of stories. I understand the want to actually have new IPs be created, but honestly, and this is coming from a business perspective, it all comes down to money. It is financially safer for a studio to give Rob Zombie money to create a film based on a pre-existing property that already has name recognition and a film base built in. It makes more financial sense. And that's basically it. That is why they don't come up with new ideas. Now, there are people, certainly a lot of filmmakers out there are coming out with new ideas. And I think as we'll see from like looking at the images from these four films coming to Amazon Prime, these are wholly original horror movies. These are not based off of anything. So those types of movies do exist and they are getting made. They just don't always, it's just not always the case. And of course, when it comes to the big budget franchises that we see, all of them are based off of pre-existing properties, which is also just kind of how it works these days. It's a business thing. It's unfortunate, but luckily there are people who are creating new and original things all the time. We just have to, be conscious of that and search them out. And in this case, with Bingo Hell, Black as Night, Madras, and The Manor, it's very simple to find them because it's just on Amazon Prime. But Gloria, on that same note, could you come back into the chat and just let us know some of the more original films you've seen recently that you've been really into, things that you think exemplify that kind of original cinematic voice or just original ideas that you would prefer to see in film? I would love to get your take on that. But now let's look at images from, first off, Bingo Hell. So the original gentleman that we saw before with his teeth and his hat and his sunken features, he is coming from Bingo Hell. I wonder what he's going to be doing in Bingo Hell. We see here he's kind of creeping up on somebody who has just kissed a mirror from the looks of it. That's a strange thing to do with a mirror. And then you also see here Adriana Barraza. Yeah. Jesus. Adriana Barraza holding a shotgun in Bingo Hell. Oh, we also got little blurbs about them as well. When a sinister figure threatens the residents of a low-income community, a feisty senior citizen tries to stop him in Bingo Hell, a wickedly original horror film with a fiendishly funny twist. After 60-something neighborhood, and we don't need to get into the actual plot breakdown, it sounds like fun. It sounds like fun. Being directed by, Gigi Salguero. I talked about her. I talked about this project like a long time ago, like before the channel went on hiatus for the first or second time. So good for her. Good for her. This is what she actually ended up coming up with. This looks cool. I really like the lighting on this. You got the orange light, the purplish in the background. Gives it kind of just fun vibes all around. And I love how the poster for this has the crease through the middle. That's how you know you're getting some good quality stuff. So now we move on to looking at images from Black as Night. Looks like we got people living in a slum type area. Ooh, and people in a graveyard. A resourceful teenage girl leaves childhood behind when she battles a group of deadly vampires in Black as Night, an action horror hybrid with a strong social conscience and a biting sense of humor. I'm in. That's all I needed to hear. 15 years after Hurricane Katrina ravaged New Orleans, a new threat leaves its mark on the Big Easy in the form of puncture wounds on the throats of the city's vulnerable displaced population. And this is actually a great way of approaching how underrepresented people, at-risk people, can be treated by broader systems, and how they are just neglected and forgotten about, is show that they are forgotten and neglected, that the vampires see victims like them and think no one's going to care about these people, no one's going to miss them. I can just do my blood drinking and do my murdering, and nothing is going to come back on me. No one's going to care. So yeah, that's a pretty cool take. Poster is not as good as the last one because there is no crease in the middle, but we do get a red-eyed, devilish-looking person right there who is a vampire. Also, kind of looks like he's wearing a hat. I wonder if these films are connected. They're definitely not connected. So now we see images from Madras. Looks like it's taking place in a more rural area. It's pretty dark, as horror movies tend to be. Beto and Diana, a young Mexican-American couple expecting their first child, moved to a small town in 1970s California where Beto has been offered a job managing a farm. Isolated from the community and plagued by confusing nightmares, Diana explores the rundown company ranch where they reside, finding a grisly talisman and a box containing the belongings of the previous residents. Her discoveries lead her to a truth much stranger and more terrifying than she could possibly have imagined. All right. Sounds like fun. I have no real strong feelings about that one way or the other. Let's look at the poster, though. No crease. No crease. Missed opportunity. And finally, we have images from the manor. And that is a big old house. I almost thought that was Nicole Kidman. But it's Barbara Hershey. So this looks like we're getting more old people in the manor. Let's see what this is all about. A malevolent force preys on the residents of a sleepy nursing home in the manor. A gothic tale of terror with a modern twist. When a mild stroke diminishes her ability to care for herself, Judith Albright, played by Barbara Hershey, moves to Golden Sun Manor, an assisted living facility with a sterling reputation. But despite the best efforts of the staff and a budding friendship with fellow senior Ronald, played by Bruce Davidson, strange occurrences and nightmarish visions convince Judith that a sinister presence is haunting the massive estate. As residents begin to die mysteriously, Judith's frantic warnings are dismissed as fantasy. Even her devoted grandson, Josh, thinks her fears are the result of dementia, not demons. This actually kind of sounds a lot like the plot to the second Nightmare on Elm Street, where all of these different kids are having like different dreams about Freddy and Freddy killing them, but no one believes them because they're in a psychiatric asylum. And they all just think like, oh yeah, no, the best way to deal with this is for you to sleep more. And everyone's like, fuck you. Sleeping is what kills us. And they're like, no. Getting sleep is good. And they're like, no, it's not. I saw that for the first time just the other day. Pretty fun. Oh, this is a nice poster. No crease, although it's got some lines around the edges. But yeah, I like this. This kind of reminds me of The Witch, actually. More so in the typeface than anything else. And the fact that they do like small the and then manor, which I think is also what The Witch did. But yeah, that looks pretty cool. Welcome to Blumhouse. All right. Yeah, I'm into this. I think I'd probably be most excited to see the first one that we talked about, Bingo Hell, because that just, look at all the purple. Look at all that purple. I like that. I like these colors. And this guy just looks fucking creepy to me. So yeah, I'm into it. I'm going to watch some of these. And now we move on to another little bit of horror movie news. I feel like we're going to go over my typical 3 hours. We're going into the afternoon, cinephiles. That's what's going on right now. The Final Girls Berlin Film Festival announced its program for Halloween 2021. The other day, I talked about a couple of other film festivals that announced their slates. This one caught my eye, though, simply because the name Final Girls makes me think that they are trying to center women filmmakers more. I'm thinking it's kind of similar to what a film festival in Toronto does, called the Axe Wound Film Festival. It's a horror film festival that centers female directors, up-and-coming female directors. So I'm thinking this will probably be something similar. So let's just get into the article a bit. This is coming from Screen Anarchy, which is not one that I think we've seen before. What a difference a few months can make. Back in February, our friends at Final Girls Berlin had to host a virtual edition of the first part of their program this year. Fast forward to October, and they are returning to an in-person Halloween event at the end of October. The event features a weekend-long program featuring feature-length films like Relic, which we mentioned yesterday, Saint Maud, which has already come out internationally in most places, I believe, and the folk horror doc Woodlands Dark and Days Bewitched. The short film programs are not to be missed either. Everything you need to know follows. So let's see if we can just get a straight list. So we're getting Relic, which we talked about yesterday, Saint Maud, which is pretty much available anywhere. She Dies Tomorrow, which I saw this at Blood in the Snow in like 2019, I think. Or wait, is this what I'm thinking is? Waking up, convinced that she's going to die tomorrow. Amy's carefully held together. Survival, certain death. Oh no, this is a different film. Pardon me. We also got Violation, which is a Canadian film, which I actually have. I purchased this on Cineplex, on the Cineplex store. And when I say purchase, I mean I use my scene points because I don't give Cineplex money. So this is going to be part of my my Halloween Spooktober watching. It will be Violations. That's cool to see it here. And we're getting the... It was funny too. They're saying like the German premiere. So a lot of these things are not actually premieres. Well, this is a Berlin premiere for Saint Maud. Okay. It must not be available on streaming there then. The Woodlands and the Dark Days Bewitched. This is the folk horror documentary. Also a film called The Velvet Vampire from 1971. So I assume this is a restoration of some kind. So that's fun. And we got a whole lot of short films. So congrats. Ooh, they have a witch program? That's cool. I'm into that. So congratulations to the Final Girls Film Festival for being able to return to theaters. Congrats. Looks like you got some good movies going on there. I do want to see Saint Maud. I haven't seen it yet. I always keep avoiding it because I've heard from people that it's like not as good as you want it to be. But eventually I will see it. And, of course, Violation, the Canadian horror film. I must watch that. Moving on now to Shudder. We talked about them and one of their original films yesterday, and it looks like they're doing even more horror stuff. So they have picked up the William Moseley-led mystery horror film Raven's Hollow. Let's get into this a bit more. Raven's Hollow, the mystery horror directed by Christopher Hatton and starring William Moseley, has landed at Shudder. The AMC Network's backed streamer has picked up the feature, which is produced by Canoe Films, Cinevilla Studios, and 828 Media Capital in the US, UK, Austria, and New Zealand. It is set to launch in 2022. I imagine that also includes Canada, hopefully, probably, fingers crossed. It comes as principal photography has started on the pick from the Battle of the Damned director. The film is a supernatural thriller inspired by Edgar Allan Poe's mysterious exit from the military academy at West Point. Chronicles of Narnia star Moseley is joined by Melanie Zanetti, who is in Love and Monsters, which is a film on Netflix that I enjoyed. Kate Dickie from Game of Thrones, David Heyman from Fisherman's Friends, Oberyn K.A. Ajapong from The Dark Tower, and Calum Woodhouse from All Creatures Great and Small. We get into what the film is all about. The Shudder representative, Gatto, said, "We're delighted to be working with such a talented, creative team to bring Christopher's unique vision to life. Raven's Hollow is a wonderful example of the storytelling that we continue to seek out within the horror genre, and we're excited to share it with members next year." Let's just do a little bit of a overview of the plot. Returning from a training exercise in upstate New York, Poe and 4 other West Point cadets make a gruesome discovery. This encounter will lead them into a forgotten community where they find a township guarding a frightening secret that feeds Poe's wandering and ingenious mind. Believing something sinister is at play, Poe explores the dark, suspicious underbelly of a frightened people reluctant to talk of any atrocity witnessed in order to reveal the secrets hidden within. Risking everything as he uncovers the layers of Raven Hollow's past, Poe ultimately comes face to face with the truth that will haunt him forever. So we're getting kind of Edgar Allan Poe as a detective almost, which is kind of cool. Sounds fun. I'm into it. I like it. Let me know in the chat if this is something that you are interested in. I would love to hear from you. Moving on now, we get a piece of horror adjacent news. And this is something that has been broadly known at this point, that Halloween Kills, when it premieres on October 15th, will also be going day and date on Peacock, which is NBC's streaming service. And Jason Blum is here to explain why that is happening. This comes to us from Lady Disgusting and Josh Squires, my man. To quote, let's see if we can just find the quote. We don't need any of the preamble. To quote Blum, "It was my idea to do it. Peacock didn't approach me, I approached them," Blum reveals. "I, like everyone else, am a big believer in the theatrical experience. I think eventually there should be windows. I think Universal's strategy of the 3-week window is a great strategy, but I had a bad distribution experience with Freaky. That movie is a great movie. And it didn't get seen because the distribution of it got all twisted up. That's my fault." He continues, "I didn't want to go through that experience again. I didn't want to have a movie that I'm really proud of, that I think is great, and have there be an excuse why people didn't see it. So I'm the one who pitched Universal, and then I pitched Jamie and David, and it was my idea. I stand behind it, and I'm glad we're doing it." While it was a big hit with critics, Christopher Landon's Freaky made just $50 million at the worldwide box office last year, a low number that can no doubt be attributed to the ongoing pandemic. Freaky was released exclusively in theaters in pre-vaccine November 2020, at a time when audiences' confidence with returning to normal was even lower than it is now. And this was also after, theaters in Toronto closed again. I saw Tenet in early October 2020, and it was maybe 2 weeks later that we went into lockdown again. Or at least, not full lockdown. Movie theaters were closed again. So there were a lot of territories where people just couldn't even go and see this film. Dory saying, "What an idiot. Day and date are killing theaters." True. It is true. To continue going on with this article, it would seem Blum has learned the error of his ways with that release, now confident that the next big Blumhouse horror movie should be released in theaters and at home on the very same day. Again, the decision will likely cut into box office profits for Halloween Kills, but the return of Michael Miles will, on the flip side, bring a flood of new subscribers to Peacock. Just don't expect the same strategy for Halloween Ends next year. Oh yes, that's what the third Halloween movie is going to be called. Or the fifth one, technically. "I don't want to do it for the third movie. I want to go back to traditional windows, but COVID is incredibly unpredictable, and I didn't want to risk it again," Blum notes. "I feel like I did that with Freaky, and it left me with a bad taste in my mouth, so I don't want to repeat that experience." So Dory, it looks like he will be going back to how things were being done before. This is just a temporary thing, and it's largely because Freaky bombed at the box office because no one wanted to go to the theaters at that point in time, which is understandable. So I know we're all very passionate about seeing movies in theaters. And yes, I'm sure this will eat into Halloween's box office, although I think we can all expect Halloween to overperform Freaky at the box office. I imagine it's going to do quite well. Oh, excuse me. I know I'm going to be seeing it in theaters, because what else am I going to do with my life? But I am excited. I'm excited to actually see this. So that is the explanation. That is why it's going straight to Peacock. I know, Dory, you think he's an idiot for doing this. It probably makes business sense for him. It doesn't make good business sense for theaters, unfortunately. But hopefully, we'll be getting back to proper theater-going experiences soon. Hopefully. Dory saying, Freaky was fun, but can't hold a candle to Halloween Kills. Or can it? You haven't seen Halloween Kills yet. Neither have I. So maybe Freaky's actually better. Although we also kind of know what Halloween Kills is going to be because of that one trailer they released is pretty much the whole film, including a lot of the kills. So maybe we can make that determination. Speaking again about Halloween Kills. Oh my god. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't be yawning. I actually slept well for the most part. Unless I didn't. Rocco, was that your fault? Did you keep me up all night and I just don't remember it? Yeah, keep stretching on the couch, you freeloader. So this is just, once again, horror adjacent, but it also has to do with Halloween Kills. The band Ghost, who I don't really listen to, but they are one of the more popular heavy metal bands that exists in the world today. They have a new single called Hunter's Moon, and it will feature on the Halloween Kills soundtrack. We're not going to listen to the song because I don't want this stream to get claimed, even though it might actually end up getting claimed because of the Rocky 4 trailer that we watched, but that's fine. We have a new song from Ghost for Halloween. So this is kind of an important way of framing Halloween Kills, I think. It is meant to be a bigger film. It has this kind of tie-in stuff going on with it. Probably not going to be going as far as seeing, specialty made glasses being sold at McDonald's or something like that for Halloween Kills, although that would be fun. There may be people here who don't remember that, but I'm pretty sure you could get like Jurassic Park branded glasses from McDonald's back in the day. That shit was fun. But yeah, this is just something coming up from Bloody Disgusting, written by Megan Navarro. I'm not really going to get into this article. I just wanted to point out the fact that Halloween Kills is having just a bigger release than you would typically see at a lot of other horror films. Having a tie-in with one of the most popular heavy metal bands in the world right now speaks to that. And it seems like Blumhouse is really trying to put their best foot forward and getting as much exposure as possible with Halloween Kills by tying in this kind of music along with it. So then that leads me into the very last story, which has to do with Salem's Lot casting news. The Stephen King New Line movie adds John Benjamin Hickey. And I know I recognize this guy from something, but hopefully that will be revealed in this exclusive. This is coming from Anthony D'Alessandro for Deadline. Recent The Inheritance Tony nominee John Benjamin Hickey is set to play Father Callahan in New Line's big feature adaptation of Stephen King's best-selling novel Salem's Lot, which is hitting theaters in the Warner Brothers post Labor Day holiday corridor on September 9th, 2022. So about a year away. Hickey joins previously announced Lewis Pullman, Alfre Woodward, Mackenzie Lee, Bill Camp, Spencer Treat Clark, and Pilot Asbach in the Gary Dauberman adapted and directed feature. In the movie, author Ben Mears returns to his childhood home of Jerusalem Lot. We all kind of know the story of Salem's Lot, probably. Hickey is currently preparing to make his Broadway directorial debut with the revival of Neil Simon's Plaza Suite, starring Sarah Jessica Parker and Matthew Broderick, following a sold-out run at the Colonial Theater in Boston. Hickey played Henry Wilcox in the acclaimed play The Inheritance on Broadway and in the West End of London, for which he won an Outer Critics Circle Award and nominated for a Tony Award. His latest movie, Sublet, premiered at the 2020 Tribeca Film Festival. He can also be seen starring in Mapplethorpe alongside Matt Smith, the critically acclaimed Netflix release Taluya, the Barack Obama biopic Barry, maybe that's where I saw him, and Scott Cooper's Hostiles. Other credits include The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, Truth, Big Stone Gap, Get On Up, Pitch Perfect. I probably saw him in Pitch Perfect. Flag of Our Fathers, The Anniversary Party, Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, and The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, the remake, I'm assuming. Talking more about his Hannibal stuff. Oh, his television stuff. He was in Hannibal, though. So that could be it, where I also know him from. This article is really just me trying to figure out where I know this person from. He just looks so familiar, Just looks very familiar. But now, it seems like the Salem's Lot cast is really rounded out, and I imagine they're going to start shooting fairly soon. If they're going to be hitting September 9th, 2022, probably shooting, early next year? If post-production takes them about 2 months, and they probably only need about 2 months to shoot it. Yeah, probably early next year they would start filming. And I'm excited for this. Stephen King films have been on a pretty good run recently, and it's October, so therefore I am excited for all things to do with horror. Brent, to answer your question, you've never heard of Ghost, and you're asking, what kind of metal do they do? That was just a yawn. I was not trying to do falsetto, I promise. They are, to the best of my knowledge, more of a traditional heavy metal band, who have been able to build up a kind of audience because they have a kind of weird thing where the lead singer gets changed every album or every few albums or so, I think. But there's a a story behind it. Like they started off with like this Pope looking dude, and then I think he was like old, so he like left the band or something, but then they had that be kind of a story, I think, where he was like reborn as his like reincarnated younger self, and now they have like this younger singer. So it's like the band exists and they have almost like not a cinematic universe, but they have an ongoing narrative about them. So it's kind of like Guar, but without the blood cannons and cum cannons and piss cannons and sludge cannons, and all the other kinds of cannons that Guar brings with them to a show. And they're also a bit more theatrical and things like this. But I think as far as like what genre of metal they fall into, it's mostly just traditional heavy metal. But we can consult the archives. That is a joke for Brent and I, for anyone else who's watching us. For the other person who's watching this and you're like, what are they talking about? There is a website called Metal Archives, which is the most complete website on the internet for looking up stuff on heavy metal. So their genres here are just, heavy metal rock. So they're basically just a traditional heavy metal band. And their lyrical themes are Satanism, darkness, evil, and occultism, which is just perfect for this time of year. That is all I'm going to say about Ghosts. But you can even see here, like, these guys just look different. Like, this guy's wearing a weird mask, maybe. There's some weird shit going on with these metal masks. I don't know. But also, every time I hear any of their songs, it doesn't really pique my interest enough for me to actually check them out. I just know that they are popular and they are like well known. So that's pretty much all the news, except for one follow-up. Kind of the fun thing I was leaving until the end. The horror collection that Vans is putting out launched today. And I took a look at it before I went live, and I think I'm actually going to buy some stuff from it. But what interested me is that there's actually a lot more stuff in this than what was teased. Like, I didn't know there was going to be a Friday the 13th hoodie. Look at that thing. Now I have to consider to myself, am I enough of a Friday the 13th fan to get a cool hoodie? And the answer to that is no, but there's some other stuff here that I'm thinking I might get. I really just want a pair of slip-ons, so like, why not a pair of Friday the 13th slip-ons? But just to go through it, we also have hats, which I didn't know were going to be a part of this. Also, Beetlejuice is part of this, which was not previously announced. I think the ones that they didn't announce were Friday the 13th, The Shining, Friday the 13th, The Shining, Nightmare on Elm Street, and maybe one other. But like, I don't think Beetlejuice was initially announced. Then we've got this Friday the 13th long sleeve, which is pretty dope. We've got these sandals, and you know what, everyone? I need new sandals. So this could be it. Friday the 13th slip-ons for TJ. They also have Gremlins as part of this, which I was not expecting. And then look at this Shining hoodie. It's blue, or it's turquoise. That's actually kind of cool. I would never wear that color, but still, that's a cool thing. Also, look at this hat. Look at this Shining hat. That's something that Billie Eilish is going to wear probably. And these Shining slip-ons are pretty sick as well. I might actually go for those instead. I think those would look better with my all black, typically all black fashion sense. And then we also have some more stuff from The Shining here. These shoes are part of the teaser. I really, really love this long sleeve. It's white, and I hate that, but it also just looks real cool. Especially with like the VHS aesthetic off to the side. Man, that's good stuff. We also have stuff from It, some more stuff from Beetlejuice, some It socks, Beetlejuice high tops. These It low ones here are pretty nice. I like the look of these, but they're also It, and I don't know if I want to associate myself with that particular one. And there's more. There's more stuff. This Nightmare on Elm Street t-shirt's pretty cool. I've already gone through this, and there is no Nightmare on Elm Street long sleeve, which is stupid, and there absolutely should be. But like, these Nightmare on Elm Street high tops, not bad, not bad. There's also Lost Boys stuff, and the Exorcist shoes. You know, I'm just seeing my wallet be shrinking more and more. And I think weirdly, and I don't know why they would do this, but Gremlin seems to be the most represented out of all of these things. So for Gremlin fans, like, good for you. You're doing real good today. And what else we got? More Beetlejuice stuff, Beetlejuice slip-ons. This one on the right just seems to be kind of lazy. It looks like it's just like scenes from the movie, which, like, come on, you could do better than that. Yeah, and that's all of it. So the stuff you may see me wearing in the future, definitely this Shining long sleeve. You will see me in white, everyone, I promise, because that is just way too fucking cool for me to say no to. And even the fact, like, and the Vans branding is like off to the side, like it's on the sleeve, so I'm into that. And then I'll go through this and see if there's anything else I'm really interested in, although these Shining slip-ons are pretty sick. As a 35-year-old man, I don't know if I should be wearing stuff from Vans anymore, but sometimes they just know how to market to me. And even this hoodie, it's kind of growing on me. It would be a weird ass color for me to wear, though, I'm not gonna lie. All right, that said. Oh, and these slippers. I gotta get those slippers. And this long sleeve as well. Gotta get all the long sleeves. Because it's winter time, guys. You gotta get long sleeves for the winter. So now, with all that done, I am going to flip back to the Just Me as I look to see if there's any breaking news that we need to address. Let's see, where did this end off? All right. So there's a new trailer for a film called Time of Impatience. Probably will not do a reaction for that. Vinegar Syndrome has announced their October releases, which they probably should have done before now. But you know what? That's horror movie adjacent. Let's take a quick look at it. So if you need to buy some Blu-rays, some restorations, look at this photo. What the fuck even is that? It just looks like, I mean, there's a hand and some intestines? Or is it a pig? I don't know. Vinegar Syndrome has announced their October 2021 releases this morning, with the highlight of the batch being the 4K Ultra HD release of the 1993 creature feature Ticks. Probably lots of Lyme disease come with that one. The company details one of the quintessential creature features of the early 90s, Tony Randall's, who also directed Hellraiser 2 and Amityville, an Amityville film. Ticks plays loving tribute to 1950s giant monster movies, updating the formula by adding copious amounts of blood and slime and heavily increased bloodshed. It stars Seth Green, who we all know from Austin Powers and Robot Chicken, Alfonso Ribeiro, Rosalind Allen, who's in Seinfeld, and a very memorable appearance from Clint Howard, who's in Ice Cream Man. Vinegar Syndrome brings Ticks to 4K UHD for the first time in a never-before-seen extended version, featuring comprehensive interviews and commentaries from the film's key creators, and includes producer Brian Yuzna and Ticks creator and effects supervisor Doug Beswick, who also worked on Aliens and the Terminator. So, Brent, you must automatically be interested in this. Other stuff coming from Vinegar Syndrome this month include The Grave, Nothing Underneath, Too Beautiful to Die, Camilla Keaton in Italy, and The Laughing Dead. I imagine Camilla Keaton in Italy is a softcore porn film, because Vinegar Syndrome also does release those. Hey, it's that guy. Oh no, that kind of looks like a horror movie. Who knows? Nothing Underneath. Looks like there's some nakedness in that one. So cool. If you're into restorations, Vinegar Syndrome is a great place to get your horror fix from, and they do a lot of good work as far as I'm aware. So we'll just get back to me, see if there's any more breaking news. I haven't purchased anything from Vinegar Syndrome though, and that's mostly because I don't purchase anything at all when it comes to movies anymore. No more physical media in my life. Let's see. Hollywood Foreign Press Association adds 21 new members with emphasis on diversity. Do they actually say who the members were? Let's go back. Not horror news, but in line with our interests. Get out of here, advertisements. The Golden Globes have announced their new set of members to join their organization, marking the largest class in their history. Of the 21 members, their demographic breakdowns are as follows. 48% identify as women, 29% identify as Black, 24% identify as Asian, 29% identify as Latinx, and 19% identify as Middle Eastern / North African. The 21 journalists who resulted which resulted from an outreach effort by the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, increased the current membership by 20%. Wow. So that means I guess they had around 100 members already, and now that's up to about 121. The organization anticipates adding a similar size group in 2022. So that's a fairly substantial change for the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. Like going from 100 members to 140 and having like a lot of those people being like having about 140 of those brand new people being brand new, like that's a huge culture change, a huge culture shift. The Golden Globes are going to look much different when they actually come back to television. So that's cool. Oh, and we get to see the members and where they're coming from. Someone from ESPN. Interesting. But I guess that's ESPN Global. But that still doesn't make sense. Oh, someone from Getty Images. That's interesting. Movie Walker Press. This one's from Germany. Cinepop. I imagine that is French. Film Ireland. Hala TV. Oficial Brazil. So Brazil. Cinema Today. Cool. Looks good. I know none of these people. I'm not familiar with their work, but congratulations to them on becoming an important part of reshaping the Golden Globes. Cool. Let's see, any more breaking news? Any more breaking news? Ooh, don't really need to do the full article for this, but apparently Venom in its preview screening, so everything that it made last night, was 11.6 million, which is pretty good because previews typically only are for 7 p.m. screenings and later. So usually only 2 screenings are available for people to watch on preview days. So that's about half the day. So you could theoretically expect it to make more on, say, a Saturday and Sunday, and obviously also today because more screenings are available. So if that carries through, they could potentially be looking at a 40, 50, getting into like the 65 to $70 million full opening weekend range, which would be a fairly good opening for it. Konami releasing massive Castlevania soundtrack. That has nothing to do with horror movies or movies in general. Let's see. Anything else? Anything else? I think we're good. I think we've got it all, everybody. We did it. We did it. We got to the end of the movie news. So I'll just mark this all as read, and I will say goodbye to all of you. Happy weekend. Happy October. Enjoy yourselves. Have good times. Be safe. Be wonderful to each other. Please get into the Cinemateq Discord and let me know what you think about all the movies that you see over the weekend. I will be getting back into there and putting more stuff in there. I've been kind of absent in my duties as moderator and leader of that place. But I'll for sure be putting my my Venom 2 thoughts in there as well, and probably be tweeting about them. Might even make a YouTube short about it. We'll see how the weekend goes, because I've got some other projects that I've got to work on. And I guess to add on to that, make sure to keep your Sundays free for the public domain picture show. I had to go with Sundays. I know Thursdays were requested, but there's just a lot of stuff coming out this week or this month, and doing that show on Thursdays when I could be seeing new films come out on previews on Thursdays, it just didn't make a lot of sense. Whereas Sundays, I feel like everyone who's going to the theater will have already gone to the theater. People will have will have a more laid back day. They'll be more available to watch. So I think that's probably going to be the best. And the public domain picture show will not start this Sunday, so not on the 3rd, but the following Sunday, which I believe is the 10th, and then we'll go for 4 weeks straight, leading up to, of course, Halloween, which is Sunday, October 31st. And I will be talking a bit more about the films that I'll be showing after I confirm over the weekend that I can actually stream them on YouTube, because that's not always going to be the case. And there'll be some other things I'm going to talk about as well in relationship to those. So thank you, Dory, for your compliments on it being a good show, and I hope you have a good weekend as well. And everyone else who watches this eventually, have a great one. I will see you later, and just try to watch more movies all the time.